Alright. That's right, I am back with another live stream of this game. Yep. I decided to go live again because I want to. And there's a reason why I want to again, because I'm still listening to that playlist of the football videos that I added, a private playlist of all the big football news happening, and I'm still kind of behind, so I'm gonna do some more of that, listen to some more of that while I'm playing this game. I did that the last two episodes. Episode 66 was over 6.5 hours. Yes, that long. That's where I bought my second truck. And yeah, it took a lot of time to decide which truck do I want, and I finally made a decision. I bought a Mack Anthem, and then I drove it from Oregon, I forget what city though, in Oregon, all the way to my headquarters in Los Angeles. Then a few nights ago, 1 week later I should say, I did another one. I did my first delivery with that truck, and that was the longest one on that list. And that took about 2 hours in real time, with like a 5 to 10 minute break. So I'm going to do another one of that tonight. And yeah. This is episode 68, I believe. And I'm probably going to do this again on maybe Saturday, because that'll be 3 days from now. 3 days ago was Sunday, so 3 days from now will be Saturday. I figured it might be better to do it on Saturday instead of Sunday this time, because there's no football games on Saturday. Yeah. Anyway. So, yeah. And we are approaching the 8th anniversary of this game, which will be on Friday, February 2nd. This game came out on February 2nd, 2016. We're approaching 8 years later. And you know I'm going to be doing a special edition, special stream edition of this game. I'm thinking to do the longest stream, or not stream, the longest drive possible in this game. I wonder how long that'll take. My last delivery took about 2 hours in real time. That was from Los Angeles all the way to a city near Houston. So the longest drive might be double. That might take 4 hours in real time. But hey, why not make history? I don't know if I'm going to do, if it's going to be a delivery or just a regular drive. I'll see, I guess. But yeah, can't believe it. 8 years almost this game came out. But back then there wasn't much. There wasn't much back then. There was only 2 states, California and Nevada. Now there's so many states. The entire West Coast, the Mountain Time Zone. Now we're in the Central Time Zone. The recent state that just came out was Kansas. They already announced like the next 3 states. Nebraska, Missouri, and then Arkansas. No, I think Arkansas and then Missouri. Yeah. Man. I hope after that is Louisiana, because that is the state that I live in. And, yeah. Alright. So, looks like there's no news since yeah, it's only been 3 days since I played this game. Yep. Once again, if you played this game and if you have a World of Trucks account, the Christmas, Winterland, and the Cruising Kansas events have been extended until February 5th. Oh, that's only 3 days after the 8th anniversary of this game, so yeah. Alright guys, I'm I don't really have any news because it's only been 3 days since I last played. Usually, I know sometimes I'll do this like once a month or so. Then I'll talk for like 30 minutes or 45 minutes until I start playing, but there's no need to because I did that last time anyways. Plus, I had quite a bit of people commenting on the chat. That's why. So, alright. So, yep. I'm going to be listening to more football news. Yep. Because I'm curious. I'm interested. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Again, I don't know. I might do one more stream on Saturday of me listening to football videos. And then the week after that will be the 8th anniversary. So, yep, more streams of this game until then. Alright. And, yeah, that's really it. So I'm probably gonna do another long delivery. Not a super long one, but maybe a pretty long one. This stream will probably be about, yeah, about 3 hours. Just like the last one. Maybe a little more. It depends. So. But I'm going to try and live stream this again on Sunday, and then hopefully I'll be done with all these, with that playlist. And luckily, the last 2 episodes, I have no copyright claims, so that's great. That's great. Alright. So, I'm on the news from almost 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that long ago. 2 weeks ago, the big football news occurred where coaches leaving their teams, you know, and all that stuff. And then, yeah. I don't really have to explain much of that, so. Alright, I think I'm ready. So, I'm going to mute my mic as always. If you have anything to say in the chat, feel free to do that, and I'll do my best to respond back to you. Sometimes you might have to be a little patient for you to wait for my response, because I don't want to text and drive, you know, just like in real life. I know I can pause the game and do that, but I don't really want to. Yeah. It's funny, sometimes I'll take breaks, like in real life, like a bathroom break, after I stop at a rest stop. Because I'm trying to pretend that I'm I'm a real trucker, you know. It's kind of fun. Huh, do we really have 6 people watching? That's crazy. Alright. So yeah, I'm gonna do my, I guess, oh, excuse me. I guess I'm gonna do my second delivery. We'll see what that is once I look at the list. But yeah, I really like my truck. My second truck, a Mack Anthem, I really like it. I think I like it more than my previous truck, which is a Kenworth. I forgot the model name, but I still have it, but it needs like a whole new repairment. I damaged it too much. But, you know, it was time to get a new truck anyway. So yeah, long deliveries equals more money. Yeah. Maybe I'll try and get back to $1 million again for the 8th anniversary. Yeah. And my last delivery went really well. It did. Didn't really have any crazy moments, so that's good. Also, if you haven't seen the video from a few days ago, I released a video of this game of a crazy glitch. And that got quite a lot of views already. It is a crazy glitch. The thumbnail speaks for itself, so. And it's funny, that kind of glitch happens more in this one and this one. 18 Wheels of Steel, the old version of American Truck Simulator. I grew up playing these 2 versions. They're also SCS software games. That's why. Speaking of SCS software, this game also, I believe this game was also made by the SCS software. Bus Driver. Yep. Look, only 224 megabytes megabytes space required. Unlike this one, you need over 23 gigabytes. But that's how great this game is. Euro Truck Simulator 2. Still haven't played it yet, but whenever I do, I will do a video of it. I bought it because a month ago was the Steam Winter Sale. So I was like, well, why not buy it since it's on sale? And I did. Haven't played it yet though, but I'll do some videos and streams of this game, and as well as 18 Wheels of Steel and Bus Driver. Oh, and one more. Hunting Unlimited 2010 was also a SCF software game. Another game that I grew up playing a lot. But yeah, I'll do videos of those old games and this one, Euro Truck Simulator 2, but not as much as this one, because look at that. Look at that playtime, over 381 hours. Real time. That's not game time, playtime. So, alright guys, that's it. More football news. And then eventually they'll talk about the games, the playoff games that happened this past weekend and the weekend before that. So that's why I want to do more streams of me listening to that. And I might do another one on Saturday before the playoff games on Sunday. Yeah. And after that, the following week will be the 8th anniversary on Friday, February 2nd. Yep. Alright guys, that's it. Enjoy my next delivery, or deliveries. Depends on how long the next one takes, and then I'll stop the stream when it gets kind of late. This will be about 3 hours or so. A little longer than the last one. Alright. That's it. Gonna start playing the videos and start up the game right now.
Belichick is no longer in New England. Today is the day we turn the page, Dan, and he's made it very clear. He intends to coach again, so where are the arrows pointing right now?
It seems like most people that watch these situations closely say Atlanta is the spot to watch for him. You know, potentially, I think they have some level of interest. We'll see if he has some level of interest in them. It seems like he might. Good roster. They're going to need a quarterback, but there are going to be options out there this offseason for quarterbacks, veterans, you know, that you might be able to trade for or sign. So, but the roster seems to be in good shape. It's a man who needs 15 wins to pass Don Shula for most all-time by a head coach. He's probably going to be looking for a place where he can get those 15 wins in the next couple of years. He's going to be 72 years old, so he's probably not going to coach for 10 more years. So I would think you're looking for spots that aren't ground-up rebuild situations.
Yeah, one would assume. Again, 15 wins is a number, and then look, the idea that he goes and wins a championship again, as Tom Brady once did, nice that doesn't feel as though that wouldn't be an important to him. And I know you think that it's not, we shouldn't just be looking for the usual suspects.
Yeah, because we'll see what happens over the next couple of days. Like, a lot could happen. D'Amico Ryans has a great future in Houston. What happens if the University of Alabama says, hey, come on in, 10-year deal, this is your alma mater? A lot of people feel in the coaching community Alabama is a more resourced opportunity green than, let's say, some of these NFL teams. So a lot of moving pieces. And to me, like, Washington has always made sense with Bill Belichick. I know the last couple of years haven't been great, but if you're starting to look for credibility and scale leadership, over 2 decades, he's hired a lot of great coaches.
One more thing I want to get from you before I turn to the page, and that is, you were saying to me, if you were to bet on it right now, you would bet, right this minute, there are 8 coaching vacancies in the National Football League. That if you were to bet on it, you would bet there will be at least one more?
I do agree. And look, let's see how it goes. Maybe Andy Reid retires. Maybe Mike Tomlin wants to take a year off. Maybe a team loses 40-0 over the next couple of days. But given everything that's gone on with Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, Coach Belichick, I would not be surprised if there was a 9th opening in the NFL.
That's the other thing, right? Like, you're talking about a field of candidates here that's very unusual. Like, you're usually picking through the hot coordinators, right? And maybe this guy has head coach qualities. If you have the opportunity to look at a field that has Jim Harbaugh, Mike Vrabel, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, These are real head coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Like that have done it at high levels. So that could alter the way some of these teams think as well.
Man, y'all act like people are just going to be knocking down Bill Belichick's door. Right? Like that Bill
Are they not?
No. Like, remember when Tom Brady hit the market?
Yeah.
And we were thinking to ourselves, this is the greatest quarterback of all time. This is the greatest player that has ever graced the field in the NFL. And so when he hit the market, surely people were going to be kicking their spouses out of the bed because Tom Brady was available to sleep next to me. Remember Tom Brady said, you're going to keep him instead of come and get me? Right. Mm-hmm. I think Bill Belichick will be in that position with some of these young up-and-coming coaches who have shown that they can do the job where they're going to be like, yes, we're going to keep him instead of getting you. As the last 2 decades happened, or the first 2 decades in New England happened, the last 3 or 4 years happened too. Mac Jones, remember Mac Jones skipped up to the podium when they drafted him?
Yes.
And we all thought, oh my God, it is Tom Brady #2. This is going to be perfect. And look what's happened to Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Look what's happened to that offense. So I don't believe that people are going to look at Bill Belichick better than some of these younger options they already have in their building. Remember, Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll moved to a different position in Seattle. Bill Belichick let go from New England. The greatest college coach of all time retiring from Alabama. Mm-hmm. What do they all have in common? They're all in their 70s.
Yes.
As playing is a young man's game, it seems that coaching is becoming a young man's game as well.
Hey, I'm gonna give you a little pushback on this. You know, you hear all this talking about owners looking for a guy they can have for 10 years.
Yeah.
How many patient billionaires do we see out here?
That's right.
Like, there's not many patient billionaires.
Yes.
These guys want to win and want to win now. And so when I look at this whole Belichick and the whole coaching cycle that we're in, it's literally going to come down to, okay, the guy I have now compared to what's available to me right now.
That's right.
And I guarantee you, those guys, those decision makers are going to look at their guys compared to that and be like, is those guys who are available better than what we have in-house right now? They're going to think long and hard. Even with Coach Belichick at 72, you have an opportunity to get the best coach in NFL history right now.
That don't mean he's the best coach right now.
No, well,
he's the best coach in NFL history, for sure. And you can acquire him right now. Is he the best coach for your organization right now?
Okay.
That's the decision you have to make. History can't play a part in that.
I understand that, but I also will say this. What's the one thing we've talked about Bill Belichick recently as it relates to the Patriots? That Bill Belichick, the GM, has failed Bill Belichick, the coach. Because no one at this table can dispute Bill Belichick hasn't forgotten how to coach.
Hell no.
Okay, so my thing is this. What if, I'm just going to throw this out there. What if the Philadelphia Eagles go out there and just lay an egg in the wild card round?
Then what?
You don't think that Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie will look at this thing with Nick Sirianni and be like, okay, this thing has been sliding backwards now for some time, and we got yeah, I'm messy.
You don't like it?
I intended to be messy.
You don't like
I
it?
intended to be messy.
I feel like it was just last year Nick Sirianni was in the Super Bowl.
It was.
What is D1 doing?
Well, it wasn't all that long ago that Bill Belichick took his team to 9 Super Bowls. Belichick is the most calculated, right? Has he ever done anything that wasn't planned?
Nope.
Has he ever gone into anything without knowing what his next move was going to be?
Nope.
Is it possible that he walked out of that building in New England yesterday without having some idea already of where he was going?
Yeah, I mean, his body language certainly gave that away. Like, it seemed like he was confident that there were going to be options for him. And RC, where I would push back about his age and all, which is, look, I've been part of 4 head coaching searches, is you want to have somebody that can scale leadership and build a program. So Greeny, if it was the Chargers or Atlanta, I'm sure what he's saying to Arthur Blank or to the Spanos family is like, hey, it may be me for 2 to 3 years because I'll be 74, but I'm going to put together a program that's going to be sustainable beyond my days.
Nobody that's left Bill Belichick has been able to put a program together.
Yeah.
If you get Bill Belichick, you are getting Bill Belichick for him and while he's there.
And the other thing is, we could all sit here and figure out the staff in the next 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like, we know the names that are going to go with him wherever he goes. So, yeah.
And the whole idea of having a coach for a long period of time, to make D. Wood's point, if you include the 8 openings now, there have been 33 coaching changes in the last 3 years in the NFL. There are only 32 teams.
You don't feel healthy.
Well, several of them have
Forever.
done it twice. Yeah,
I'm not saying you need him forever, but I am saying when you look at some of these coaches leaving, and I don't think this is the case in Pete Carroll, I feel like not the game. The game will never pass Bill Belichick got by. I feel like the people are passing him by. The young men in these locker rooms are different. Take Jack Jones, who's been an absolute star in Las Vegas for Antonio Pierce, was a guy that couldn't fit in, that couldn't work in New England, and now he's going to be a guy that ends up getting a second contract there.
And so, look, they've got to go in confident. I'm going to get keys to everybody, but as you talk about Aaron Jones, I thought it was interesting the way you said, get Jordan Love comfortable and all that. On some level, I feel like the Packers are playing with house money. Yes, I get it. He's a kid, Jordan Love, and everything else, but their season is already a success. I mean, I could feel it getting very tight in that building if this game is close at halftime.
Well, no, and that's the point, right? You want to get this game into the fourth quarter with your young quarterback that has shown throughout fourth quarters of games that he can be a guy that finds a way to make plays. Jordan Love right now is showing you that the Green Bay Packers made the right decision. They made the right decision in drafting him. They made the right decision in moving on from Aaron Rodgers, as Pat McAfee had to recently this week. When you look at all the different things that we've seen from this team down the stretch, the one thing that stands out most is how much better the offense is with Aaron Jones. And I think adding that piece to what Jordan Love can do, along with those first and second year receivers, is huge, especially playing at AT&T.
We did not talk about that in the meeting. That did not come up in the meeting.
You mean Pat McAfee and Brian Gutekunst being compared together?
Fair enough. Okay. In the meantime, that was very funny. All right. Let me. Here's what I always like to bring for everyone who's getting set to watch this game. Is because we could put the picks up on the screen. Everybody thinks the Cowboys are going to win, and I get it. So I always like to ask everybody, what's the one thing that you give the fans to watch at the beginning of the game that tells you how this thing is going to go? So, D. Wood, what do you have your eye on early in this game that might say to you, hey, the Packers are going to be in this?
I want to see how this Green Bay defense adjusts to C.D. Lamb. C.D. Lamb over the last 12 games has about 1,400 yards. That man has been balling out of his mind. We see the connection that Dak Prescott has with C.D. Lamb. So what are they going to do to try to take him away? Because he's such a big part of what Dallas wants to do offensively.
Yeah, that's a critical part, clearly, of what they've been doing of late. I would say that C.D. Lamb has been the offensive player of the year over the last 3 months. What are you watching?
Tony Pollard. Green Bay really struggles playing defense, especially on first down. Got this great stat from Hembo. They give up 5.8 yards a carry. So to RC's point about Aaron Jones, I think this game's really simple. I think Dallas has 39 minutes of time of possession. Greeny, Tony Pollard rushes for 150, 180 yards.
What?
And they control the line of scrimmage.
When last time you seen Mike McCarthy call a bunch of run plays like that?
Yeah.
Well, that's not in his DNA.
Yeah, Tony Pollard better go for 99 on one of them.
Yeah. And then we're halfway there.
Graziano, you also like the Cowboys big in this game.
Yeah, it'd take Tony Pollard 3 weeks to get 180 yards. God, that's not, look, I mean, but it's a horrendous matchup for the Green Bay defense. Dallas, Dak Prescott 4th in the league in QBR on throws between the numbers. Green Bay's defense is 32nd in the league in opposing QBR on throws between. Their opponent's QBR between the numbers is 88.2. Tom Brady's QBR in 2007 was 87. So you have literally the greatest,
the best quarterback in the world when you play Green Bay Packers
ever. By kind of a lot. So I just think it sets up very bad. I think the Cowboys, can score 40 points in this game. I think it could be that bad.
I hear you, right? And I say this, and I get it. And yet, I don't mean to sound like our friend Mr. Stephen A. Smith, but every time you think everything should go their way, RC, is exactly what it tends not to.
And I know, but like there's a first time for everything.
Right.
Like every time, like there's times that teams evolve, right? There's New York Giants teams that get into the playoffs that are 9-7 that find a way to beat the best team there ever was. And so I think that the Dallas Cowboys have matured. I believe their quarterback has matured more than anyone in the NFL. Now it is, can that quarterback and Mike McCarthy make the right decisions in crunch time. We haven't seen that from those two. That is why staying close, making this a tight game until the fourth quarter matters. Because let's think about last week. The Detroit Lions didn't play well. They kept it close. Right. What did Mike McCarthy do on second down? Instead of running the football, he throws an option route outside that could be a go ball or a stop. So now you put it in their hands, it's incomplete. You give the ball back to the Detroit Lions with enough time to drive down and score. And if not for a penalty, you lose that game. Yep. That's what you did going into the playoffs. Keep it close, Green Bay Packers, and you never know what can happen.
We already have a new coach hired, although it's not yet official.
Not official.
But that was the conversation last year when that interesting, because they very rarely put out a press release in New England to announce pretty much anything about what they're doing. But remember that there was a like a 2-3 line statement that Bill O'Brien was hired as the new offensive coordinator, which is wild that somebody would be announced and then given a title for everyone to see and call. And Gerard Mayo wasn't taking interviews elsewhere.
Right.
He was being retained on staff. And everybody took that to mean, well, Bill had to bring somebody on to be the new offensive coordinator that the Crafts wanted to have on there to straighten out a regressing Mac Jones after Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, who'd never really coordinated an offense and been in charge of a quarterback before, was in charge of Mac Jones's regression season. And Bill O'Brien came on, and as we all know, Mac Jones fell off a cliff. Not to say that that's Bill O'Brien's fault, but he fell off a cliff. And everybody thought Gerard Mayo was sticking around because he was told, you're the next coach, which led everyone to believe in New England that when Belichick being on the hot seat, it was just Gerard Mayo's gig and waiting until Mike Vrabel became available. And sure enough, Tom Pelissero, along with Ian Rappaport from my NFL media group and others, reporting today, Gerard Mayo is going to be the next head coach of the New England Patriots. Bob Kraft, when he left the podium yesterday, said we're going to move quickly. It's pretty quick.
Very quick.
And which means it may have been in his contract that this was happening because they didn't have to go through any other hiring processes. It's in his contract. You're the next coach. I saw him in Germany, and he was strolling around, and you know, I didn't get the sense that he knew he was going to be the next coach of the New England Patriots for sure. And if this has been the case, well, what an interesting dynamic, because Bill must have known what was in that contract, right? Mm-hmm. That's why we're paging Tom Curran to the horn later on today. But this is this is a guy who was drafted by the Patriots, played only for the Patriots, joined the coaching staff of the Patriots, has been only on the coaching staff of the Patriots, and now he's the one that is going to be putting on the headset after the hoodie, the guy after the guy. And your guess is as good as mine as to what the heck that's going to look like. And that's one of the fascinating aspects of everything going on in New England is what will the post-Belichick Patriots look like? And I don't mean like wins, losses. I'm talking about organizationally. There's been one way that it has been done for 24 years, and it was Bill Belichick's way.
Yep.
End of story. And as it progressed, it being, you know, all the winning and banner raising and duck boat parading and denting of Lombardi trophies with baseballs at Fenway Park.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, all of that, it only got more of Belichick's way. You even heard Bob Kraft say at the podium yesterday, AKK saying, hey, listen, it wasn't even an option to tell Bill you're going to have less control over the roster and in the draft room, and someone else will be picking the picks, and you will be picking some picks, and somebody else will be picking some picks. And that's just not the way that they have done business. And Bill had earned the right of having that control. he was saying that just didn't sound workable, that you stay the coach and we'll get more of a collaborative effort on the roster building and roster control. Wasn't an option for Kraft, and I'm sure it wasn't for Belichick. So how will it look organizationally? How will it look just spirit-wise? You know, I have no idea how this is going to look. How's it going to look media-wise? You know? Will a coach actually say if a player's injured or not? Will there be fewer questionable players on the injury report? You know, I mean,
I don't know.
right? Will more assistants talk?
I wonder what the press conferences are going to sound
You
like.
know, you know what I mean? Like, what will this entire building look like? Because the other way around, in anybody that's taken over from the Belichick system elsewhere has been quite, what's the word for it, I guess? Sea change, awakening, however you want to put it. Everything you hear in Las Vegas, it's like Josh McDaniels came in and it was the Patriot way, the McDaniels way, soup to nuts, and it took some doing in the building for people to get used to it and understand it and maybe have their roles changed because their roles aren't as collaborative under that system. And it worked for Bill. God, did it work for Bill. And others it doesn't. If Mayo is just like Bill, you know what? Everyone understands it. That's just the way it is. If it's different, that might be kind of a sea change. Don't know. What is it going to look like, and how does that affect wins and losses? And what does it look like on the field? Bringing in a total, like, hot, young, new coordinator, maybe? To bring in all of the new offensive concepts that I guess others didn't? I don't know. You're into that idea.
I'd be in favor of that.
I can't wait to see how it all builds. And then, of course, I can't wait to see where Bill goes next. My gosh. Will that be something? In terms of that organization having a sea change when he walks in the building, and then fans just having a sea change, seeing him in another sideline, another uniform logo on his hoodie.
We're also using words like when. Maybe a team doesn't want Bill.
I don't know. Maybe a team doesn't want any of these guys that are out there. Pete Carroll.
Yeah, exactly. We're just assuming
And one last thing.
they're going to get looks in interviews. Maybe not.
One last thing before we get to Pelissero here. As you know, I'm looking at every single coaching hire and fire through the lens of how does that affect Jim Harbaugh? Honestly, everything. So if Vrabel doesn't wind up in New England and he winds up in, say, the Chargers or Vegas, that's one fewer spot that Jim might leave for. So I'm like, way to go, Rod Mayo. You take that spot that I thought Vrabel was going to wind up in. Even though he was, it seems, contractually obligated to it. And I don't know. Maybe we're one step closer to the maize and blue skinny M hat still being on Jim's head. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.
Welcome to the program. That didn't take long. Yesterday at this time, we were telling you about the Patriots and Bill Belichick parting ways. Patriots have their new head coach, Gerard Mayo. No need to go through a lengthy hiring process. According to Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, they established a firm contractual succession plan in a prior contract and communicated that to the NFL. So Gerard Mayo takes over. It was in his contract that he was going to take over for Bill Belichick. Did Bill Belichick know that it was in Gerard Mayo's contract that he was going to succeed Bill Belichick? Also, you normally don't hire the coach and then hire a GM because Bill Belichick's been that GM. I'm curious about that as we move forward with the Patriots. Seton, let's start off with a poll question today.
Oh my gosh, we got so many poll questions today. I don't even know where to start. You want to start with, how about this, Paul or Todd?
Who I need to get rid of?
Yes, who are you firing today? Surprise!
All right. I get to eat first, right?
You do.
Okay.
Paulie, it was a good run.
We had a hell of a run.
Yeah, because I think you could take it.
Yeah.
I can't fire.
The only thing that could be more surprising after the last 24 hours was you firing people here today.
We would do a press conference like Belichick and Kraft.
Yes.
I would do like 4 minutes, thank a few people, no emotion whatsoever, and then I'd hand it off to you.
There you go.
Yeah, they wrapped it up in about 10 minutes there. I think it was a total of 10 minutes when Robert Kraft, Mr. Kraft, those in the business like to call him, and Bill Belichick. An entire career. That's... Bill, why don't you talk a little bit, and then Robert, you talk a little bit, and then we'll wrap it up there. That's it. There's no farewell tour. There's none of that. But if you're Belichick, I'll go back to the interview I did with Tom Brady at the Super Bowl when the Patriots lost to the Eagles. And prior to that game, during the week, I got a chance to sit down with Brady for about 20 minutes. And at one point, I asked him, I said, do you ever see you and Bill Belichick getting together when this is all said and done? And you're going to open up the scrapbook. And he looked at me and he paused and he goes, no. No, that'll never happen. Now, could it happen? Sure. But at the time, Tom was saying that's not what he does. He doesn't open up the scrapbook and reminisce. And probably is not going to be comfortable doing that anytime soon because he's on to his next job. And the Patriots were on to their next coach. Belichick is on to his next job. And that's why it was 10 minutes. Let's kind of go through the motions here. Nobody's asking any questions. We say nice things about each other. So we've had a couple of these here where Seattle with Pete Carroll, kind of nice. And, hey, we're going to keep you in the franchise maybe, and an advisor, even though he still wanted to coach. Mike Vrabel, that was not the case. By the way, what's more surprising? Gerard Mayo got the job, or Mike Vrabel didn't get the job? I don't even know if they talked to Mike Vrabel. Well, why would they talk to Mike Vrabel if it's in Gerard Mayo's contract? He's getting the job when Bill Belichick moves on. Yeah, Paulie.
Diana Rossini, the NFL reporter, said they interviewed nobody. They talked to nobody. It was Gerard Mayo. They talked to no other candidates, including Vrabel.
Yeah. So that was a little bit surprising that you're not even talking to him. But then why would you talk to him if it's already in Gerard Mayo's contract there? All right, what else do we have poll question-wise there?
Well, why don't we start here then? We'll start looking at some games maybe. How about biggest trap game this weekend? There's a couple of tricky matchups this weekend. Yes, that could have further implications that would lead to a second poll. But Packers at Cowboys, that might be a trickier game.
Well, the result could be really tricky if the Cowboys would happen to lose.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if Mike McCarthy can survive that. So I got a quarterback who is getting his first full season on the road, and they go into Dallas to win. His first playoff game, Dallas undefeated at home, a different team at home. DraftKings has you favored by 7.5. Yeah, that one's tough. Feels like there'd be fallout when that. What about Buffalo against Pittsburgh? If Buffalo loses at home, they're a double-digit favorite. Weather's going to be an issue there.
Steelers don't care about weather.
No, they don't. They're the Steelers.
They don't care.
No, they don't. Any other trap games here?
How about the Eagles Bucks? Ruh-roh.
Well, it still comes down to this. If you are going to fire your coach, who are you hiring? That New England knew what they were doing. They had Gerard Mayo, and they had no other question marks. He's been in the organization. He played for the Patriots, and he had been there as an assistant coach. And they're, judging from the fallout here from a lot of people, a lot of players, current and former players, they made the right call. And I said that yesterday. If you're going to replace Bill Belichick, are you bringing in somebody? The only other name you could bring in, I think, that people would go, okay, he's ready for that job, was Mike Vrabel, because he was a Patriot, went back there, got honored by the Patriots during the season. But Gerard Mayo, to me, was now we realize it's a rebuild. And now we have a young coach, I think he's 37, and you're going to have a rookie coach, and you're probably going to have a rookie quarterback in there. Let's grow together. Mike Vrabel's going in, and all of a sudden my expectation level was a lot higher. With Gerard Mayo, I think everybody realizes now you have a rebuild here. It'll take a little bit of time. Instead of Vrabel's coming in, we expect to be in the playoffs. Now, they can say that publicly they expect to be in the playoffs. I think realistically, they know that they've got a 2-year rebuild here to try to figure this out. Buffalo's still going to be good. Miami's still going to be good. The Jets might figure this out. New England's got to keep pace with them. But Gerard Mayo, I like the call. The defense has been really good for the Patriots. Really good. Consistent. Now the question is, what are you going to do at the quarterbacking position? Yes, Eden.
It's funny, but like Paul was just saying off air, the current coaches are becoming more fireable based on who's currently available to coach. Like Bill Belichick being theoretically available to coach now makes somebody, well, maybe we do get rid of him.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's somebody who really loves Mike Vrabel, and they're like, absolutely, I'd take him.
Yeah, I would think that there are a couple of coaches that probably could exhale a month ago who can't exhale now if they happen to lose. And Mike McCarthy, could you imagine if Mike McCarthy loses this game? And I think you have to do this what if, because we're seeing the possibilities of coaches being fired or they move on, and now you have Mike Vrabel out there, you have Pete Carroll out there, and you have Bill Belichick out there. We've never had this before. We'll never have coaches with this kind of resume all available at the same time. Just not going to. And you got an 81-year-old owner in Dallas. I don't think he would hesitate in pulling the trigger here. You bring in Bill Belichick. Dan Quinn probably leaving the Cowboys. Maybe, he goes back to Seattle as their head coach. But there are openings. But there's certain openings where you go, Pete Carroll in Carolina. Pete Carolina. See what I did with that?
Okay.
See what, Todd?
Very nice, very nice.
See what I did with that? Atlanta with Bill Belichick, which I can't process that. It's just like, that's weird. You got the Chargers job. And then, if Philly loses in Tampa, even though they're favored, do you pull the trigger on a coach who took you to the Super Bowl the previous year? And then you have Dallas. I mean, there are a couple of interesting situations here where you have to, and Buffalo. Buffalo, they righted the ship because there was a moment in time where we thought, uh-oh, they're not even going to make the playoffs, but a first-round exit, double-digit favorite at home? Yes.
If Dallas loses, will you be surprised if Mike McCarthy keeps his job?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Jerry was patient to a fault, but I think he kept coaches like Jason Garrett because Jerry was able to, in being fair to Jason, manipulate. Maybe he was more of a head coach than he would have been with somebody else who had a bigger personality. But, Jerry's the GM, he's the owner, and he's the guy who does all the interviews, and he's the coach. In his mind, he's probably the de facto coach. Like, I'm going to answer for everything, personnel decision, everything. He's involved in that. And I think, given Mike McCarthy, I think Jerry probably still feels that, hey, I can massage the situation here. Until, if you don't win, then does he go back to a big personality? I think we've waited for that. If you're a Cowboy fan, like Jimmy Johnson was a big personality. Bill Parcells a big personality. But then Jerry shied away from that. And even Mike McCarthy is not a big personality. He's got a very good resume. But Jerry, would he make that move? I think you factor in the talent on the roster, Jerry's age, and I think that he would probably bring in a new shiny object. Yes, Eaton.
And Mike McCarthy's sort of perpetually been on the hot seat. I don't know that his seat has ever necessarily cooled all that much since he got there.
Well, also, if he's the reason why you lose, if there's a late game decision, clock management, and we've already seen this in previous postseason games for them. That, yeah, I think so. I don't know about Buffalo because it felt like, okay, Sean McDermott may be on the hot seat to, no, everything's good. No, they're playing well. You don't want to, face them in the playoffs. but you're favored by 10 points at home against Pittsburgh. With the weather a factor, but a factor that's positive probably for Buffalo to be playing at home. Although they've talked about moving that game to Cleveland. Now, I'm trying to understand this because the NFL did deny it, but there was a rumor in Pittsburgh, not a report, that the NFL was considering moving that game from Buffalo because of the weather to Cleveland. And if you look at the mileage between the two cities, it's less than 200 miles from Buffalo to Cleveland, Pittsburgh to Cleveland. But what about the Buffalo fans who have tickets to the game who are then driving in a snowstorm, which to me doesn't make any sense? A team can get in there. I got 60, 70,000 fans. You know, now they're going to go to Cleveland? How are they getting to Cleveland? And shouldn't we be concerned about the fans as well? Yeah, Marvin.
And if the Bills lose, I can just hear Bills fans now. We lost the home game to Mason Rudolph and no TJ Watt.
Yes, you're right about that.
Look who's going to be getting the Alabama job. It is Kalen DeBoer. And this is amazing. If he gets, it looks like he's on the, Pete Towell says he's on the cusp of getting it.
Finalizing.
He had an appearance on the Westwood One station, KJR, up there in Seattle, that I called into on the national championship day to have a conversation. It was canceled. His appearance was canceled today. Doesn't look like he's going to be making that appearance as the Washington. If he's the Alabama head coach, when Nick Saban took the job in Alabama, Kalen DeBoer was in Sioux Falls.
Yeah, Division II school.
And
played there. He played wide receiver there.
And then he became the offensive coordinator and wide receiver coach of Southern Illinois. He was the head coach at Sioux Falls when Nick Saban took the job in Alabama, and then he became the OC in Eastern Michigan, down the road from the University of Michigan in beautiful Ypsilanti. Then he became the Fresno State coordinator. Then he was Indiana's coordinator before taking the Fresno State job. All along, who knew? This was the guy who was going to take Nick Saban's spot in Alabama. Go figure that. And one last go figure. Kalen DeBoer taking the job in Alabama means Michigan retired his predecessor and then got him essentially in a national championship game as his final coach there in Washington, where he then went and took the job that Nick Saban vacated after losing to Michigan. All I'm saying is go Blue.
Your ability to weave Michigan into almost any story.
It's not Michigan,
amazing.
it's myself.
It's amazing.
I'm weaving myself in, TJ. What is the name of this show? My goodness.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
But it is wild. Michigan beats Alabama, Saban retires, then beats Washington, and then Washington's coach leaves for Alabama. And the through line is Michigan in that little subset. But Kalen DeBoer, how about that? Is he the first coach in Alabama history to have a Sioux Falls gig on his resume?
Oh, man.
What a story. What an ascension.
He was at 67-3 at Sioux Falls.
Oh, he's won everywhere.
12-6 in Fresno, and then 25-3 the last 2 years in Washington. Won everywhere.
And he's the next coach of Alabama football. Crazy. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.
We welcome you in on a special edition of Always College Football. It is Friday afternoon, January 12th, and Alabama has officially named Kalen DeBoer, the former head coach of the Washington Huskies, as their next head football coach. This is a massive move to kind of shake up what's gone on in the sport. If you're unfamiliar with who Kalen DeBoer is, I'll bring you up to speed as quickly as I possibly can. The guy has had an unprecedented rise in the college football world. He was the head coach at Sioux Falls for a handful of years. He went and won 3 championship games, lost another, but that was at the NAIA level. He was 17-2 in playoff games in the NAIA. Before he was at Sioux Falls, he had played football for Sioux Falls, so kind of went about high school route just a little bit. After Sioux Falls, he goes to Southern Illinois, to Eastern Michigan, to Fresno State, where he was linked up with Jeff Tedford, and that was in 2017. From that point forward, it was completely on an upward trajectory with what he was able to accomplish. When he became the OC at Indiana for 1 year in 2019, that's where he was introduced to Michael Penix. They had a pretty solid rapport. Naturally, a little later in his career, he went back to Fresno State to become the head coach when Jeff Tedford stepped down, and then he became the head coach at Washington in 2022. And the time that he's been at Washington, it's been absolutely absurd, going 25-3 over the course of his tenure, one of those losses coming in the national championship game. He beat Texas twice, did a lot of great things, beat Oregon 3 times. There's a lot to appreciate about what he was able to accomplish in a very short period of time. On a personal note, I did not know Kalen DeBoer very well prior to calling the Sugar Bowl, but having spent about a day and a half with him and getting to know him personally, spending time around his program, it was obvious to see why he's had the success that he's had everywhere he's been. He has a ridiculous career record of 104-12 as a college football head coach. It's pretty impressive. But I'll say this, a lot of people got paid in the process, and there was optics that would lead you to believe that there were other candidates that were vetted prior to Kalen DeBoer's hiring. That is accurate. There were calls made to many people in the coaching profession. I can tell you right now that Dabo Sweeney was reached out to. Mike Loxley was reached out to. Mike Norvell was in communication. Dan Lanning was explored early in the process. Steve Sarkisian was explored early in the process. Everyone was considered, and Greg Byrne cast a pretty wide net just to gauge interest and to see exactly where things were in other places. But from the beginning, I'm told with good information that Kalen DeBoer was the guy to beat from the very beginning. Now, Jimmy Sexton is a remarkable power player, and you'll probably realize that Jimmy Sexton represents most of those other coaches. So Mike Norvell got a hefty $80 million deal over the next 8 years as a result of the possible interest that Alabama was showing towards him. There was another re-up that occurred in Austin, Texas with Steve Sarkisian. Steve Sarkisian was certainly considered, but he was locked down very quickly with another very lucrative deal. Dan Lanning, he was really never an option from the beginning. Not because he wasn't desirable, of course he was, the guy's amazing, but because his buyout was so prohibitive that it never really got to the point in which they would begin to negotiate or begin a conversation. So I believe Greg Byrne went into this process expecting Kalen DeBoer to be his number one option. He ended up being the number one option, but a lot of guys got paid in the process thanks to the hard work and the network of Jimmy Sexton. I think this is a terrific hire for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and I'll tell you why. Part of it is because in the 36 hours I got to spend with the Washington Huskies, I felt like I was a part of the team. We were at practice, we were at walkthrough, we sat down with Kalen DeBoer and his staff for the better part of 3.5 hours, got to meet multiple players, including Roma Dunze, Michael Penix. We became pretty intimate and familiar with everybody on their roster. We went to media days, had 30 minutes sitting down with Latuli Nasanoa, sitting down with the offensive line, sitting down with everybody associated with the program. And what I've found is that Kalen DeBoer is as approachable and as personable a guy as I've been around in the profession in quite some time. There are a lot of great dudes coaching college football, a lot. But Kalen DeBoer completely opened up his program to us in the media, which made me think, man, this guy just understands. And if he treats us like this, I can only imagine how he treats his players. And then you talk to the players about him, and they're willing to go the extra mile. They will buy into whatever this guy is selling. They will buy into whatever this guy believes is best for the long-term health and prospects of not just their careers, but also the program's future as well. So I could not have been more impressed with my interactions with Kalen DeBoer. I think he understands the current era of the sport. He knows how to meet the kids in the middle. He's not going to bog them down with extra stress. He's going to try to build them up. He's going to have them playing free. He's going to have them playing confident. And I think that's exactly the temperament that you have to have if you're going to be an uber successful coach in today's day and age in college football. I think it's a terrific hire, and one that I thought there was a lot of really good options. I think that if you look at college football, we're in a really healthy spot right now. There are a lot of really attractive options. There's a lot of really good coaches. But I think Greg Byrne got his guy, and the guy that he had circled and prioritized from the very beginning, or at least that's what I've been told with the information that's been presented to me. Another thing that I think is important about this hire, and I think Nick Saban is going to be hands-off in the process. I don't think he's going to endorse a candidate. I don't think Nick Saban is going to go out and tell Greg Byrne, this is who you need to hire. But I would be surprised if Nick Saban's input wasn't taken into consideration as Greg Byrne began this process. And I know this. I know Nick Saban put an all-points bulletin on trying to bring Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator for the Washington Huskies, to Tuscaloosa last offseason to become his offensive coordinator. Now, Ryan Grubb at the last minute decided, hey, I'm going to stay. But he had clearly studied the program. He had clearly studied the offense, because he would not have pursued Grubb so heavily if not for the respect and admiration that he had for the program that had been built on that side of the ball. Now, what happens with Washington from this point forward, we will evaluate that as we see fit. But I would be surprised if Ryan Grubb doesn't get a good, long, hard look as the possible successor to Kalen DeBoer. So this is a massive move in the college football world. Keep it locked in here on Always College Football. We'll keep you up to date with all the information that we have. If it's in an hour, it's in an hour. If it's in 2 hours, it's in 2 hours. But keep it locked in here to ESPN's YouTube channel for college football. You can also subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, and know that we will keep you up to date with all the information that we have. But a massive move today as Kalen DeBoer becomes the next head coach of the Crimson Tide.
All right, guys, you know how I start every playing season by giving you a storyline of all 32 teams, and that's how we traditionally come on the air for a regular season. So I figured, as we're going to the playoffs for the Super Wild Card Weekend. I always love using Wile E. Coyote for this sort of stuff. I figured, why don't I just do this for the playoffs, giving you a thought on each playoff game for this weekend.
We talking playoffs or what?
We certainly are. You guys ready? I need Jay Felly. I need some music here.
Yes, sir.
6 games on Super Wild Card Weekend. 6.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Stewart. It's my honor to welcome you to this beautiful and historic day at the University of Alabama. It's not surprising that the DeBoers were given such an incredible greeting at the airport yesterday, and from Alabama fans all throughout the course of the morning as well. But we're so glad you're here, and we look forward to learning more about you very soon. At this time, it's my honor to introduce the president of the University of Alabama. Please welcome Dr. Stuart Bell.
Thank you, Chris, and good afternoon, everyone. Today is an exciting day for the University of Alabama community, our fans, certainly across this nation, and I think as I've learned, literally across the globe. Excitement. Today marks a new chapter in Crimson Tide football program, and I am filled with immense anticipation and enthusiasm for what lies ahead. I want to express my gratitude to each person in this room who's played a vital role in supporting our university and the Alabama football program. Your guidance, your dedication to the university and our programs continues to be instrumental in the success that we enjoy year over year. First, a special acknowledgement is due to Coach Saban and Ms. Terry, whose influence on our student athletes have just been outstanding, with immeasurable contributions, and also to our university community, but also Tuscaloosa and West Alabama is just truly unparalleled. Your legacy will forever be interwoven with the fabric of the university, and we're profoundly thankful for your enduring impact on our student athletes who are in West Alabama, but again, truly all over the world. Thank you, Coach, for all that you've done. Also want to express my appreciation to Athletic Director Greg Byrne, whose leadership and hard work, and I don't think hard work really captures the last few days, but he has been instrumental in identifying the right person, the perfect person to lead our football program forward, to develop our student athletes, and to represent our university. Greg, thank you for all you've done. Much gratitude as well to all of our UA Board of Trustees, media who are with us here today. Thank you for your leadership, for your guidance. Pro Tem Scott Phelps, also special thanks to our athletic chair, Mike Brock, over the last couple of days. He's also spent a lot of time in working with us, the Chancellor, Vitus St. John, and to everyone's ongoing leadership, guidance, and support throughout this process. Thank you for that. Next exciting chapter, I am truly thrilled for the future of the Crimson Tide. Our elite student athletes continue to represent our university with distinction and demonstrate excellence both academically as well as on the field. Their success remains a bright and a hallmark for this university. Without further delay, I'll now turn it over to Greg Byrne, who will officially introduce our new head coach, share more details about the transformative moment that we're at. Crimson Tide football. Roll Tide.
Thank you, Dr. Bell. This is an exciting day for the University of Alabama as we welcome Kalen DeBoer as our 28th head football coach. Thank you to Dr. Bell, Chancellor St. John, Athletic Chair Mike Brock, our Board of Trustees, leadership and support at all times, and especially during the last few days. Appreciate Coach Saban and Ms. Terry so much for being here today. Look forward to celebrating them and their incredible accomplishments in the future. When I met with the team the other day after Coach announced his retirement, I asked them to give us 72 hours to help find our next head coach. I received a text from a friend shortly thereafter that said, every coaching search day feels like the equivalent of 7 days. When you're in the middle of it, there's some truth to that. Even with that, we were able to hire Coach DeBoer. Regina and I want to thank her for all of her support during this. We had a great conversation with Coach DeBoer and Nicole in Seattle just 2 days ago, and from there, I knew he was the right choice for the Crimson Tide. Simply put, Coach DeBoer is a winner. In his 9 seasons as a head coach, he's 104 for 12. He went 25-3 in his 2 seasons in Washington after taking over a challenging situation. As we know and watched, he just led the Huskies to the 2024 College Football Playoff National Championship game. Washington won the 2023 Pac-12 Championship. They recorded the most wins in a season in Washington program history with 14 last year. He won 6 of the 8 National Coach of the Year awards in 2023 and is back-to-back Pac-12 Coach of the Year award winner. In his last 2 years, his teams went 10-1 against ranked opponents. The list goes on and on. He's a ball coach. Impressive as those accolades are, what stands out equally as much are his relationships off the field and the way he cares about his players. One of the many things I felt responsibility for in this search was to make sure we had someone We are thrilled to welcome Kalen, his wife Nicole, his daughters Alexis and Avery, here today as we introduce the next head football coach of the University of Alabama, Kalen DeBoer.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, this is exciting. This is really exciting for myself and my family. As they were introduced, I first of all, I got a lot of thank yous and people I want to show some appreciation to. But Nicole, Alexis, Avery, you know, this journey that we're on called life, right? It's special. And, you know, special days like this are the ones that we're never going to forget. And I can't thank them enough for their support, their love. They're the ones that allow me to each and every day leave the house, go to work, and give everything I have to our players, our staff, to help us be the best we can be. So I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and thank you. Thank you. I want to thank Greg. I know this is happening fast, and I just can't say enough about the trust that you have in me and how much I appreciate that. It means so much. We had never met. You know, and, you know, to do your due diligence and all of that and go through the process, you know, I really appreciate it. And I just, I'm so excited to lock arms with you, as I am the rest of the athletic department, all the head coaches here, and continue to build on the great tradition of Alabama athletics as a whole. You know, so many championships, so many great coaches I cannot wait to meet. We're going to continue to strive to make this thing better all together. President Bell and Chancellor St. John, appreciate you guys as well, and looking forward to building this university together. And it's special, and thanks for this opportunity. I could go on and on about the next person I need to thank, show appreciation to, love, and you all know who that is, and Coach Saban. We just talked for the first time yesterday. And I've been in his ear a couple times already here, and man, I can just feel in his voice. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen it for many years. You know, this place is special. It's special to him, but it's special to all of you because he's what he's built it up to be. It's not just about the championships. I met with the team last night and heard from them and heard why they came here. Okay, a lot of great reasons, all tied to the Alabama brand, the education, playing here, you know, each and every Saturday, and the support that they get. But obviously there was a major piece of that where they came here because Coach Saban and Ms. Terry, you know, poured everything into them, and they just saw the vision and wanted to be a part of it. And you know, it's a privilege to be chosen to be in this role. It's one I don't take lightly. And I know that Coach Saban's been working hard to make sure that this program is in a great spot for the next person to take over. I think he hasn't told me this, but I think there's an intentionality that's been in place. You know, you kind of figure out, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think you kind of know at some point, you don't know when that point is, but you want to make sure it's in a great place. And as you can see just from this past season, it's in a great place. And being in a room last night where, you know, I saw a team that has stuck together. Greg talked about 72 hours, okay? I want you to put yourself in those guys' shoes, okay? The legendary coach, okay, that they came to play for, all right? And now what's next? And I can't tell you how much I appreciate them already. And I've had multiple meetings last night, today with them, individually, leadership groups. I know how badly they want to continue the tradition, how they want to do it the right way. And them just getting to know me here in just a few hours, it's been a blast. And I can't wait for the journey that lies ahead. But Coach Saban, thank you for all you've done, for laying the foundation for myself and the rest of this staff that we'll hire and these players to continue to build on everything you've done here. So thank you. best in the business to ever do it. I'm just going to make sure that's all known, that that's how I feel. And 100% access, okay, to everything. I would be a fool if that wasn't the case. I would be a fool. And I'm going to ask him that he shows up and make sure he gives me at least one thing every day. I'm sure he's going to have 10. I'm going to be good with that. But at least one thing that he sees that we can get better at. So I also think it's so important to understand that most programs don't just have, they don't even have one legend, right? That's in their program or have come through the years. We have probably more than two if you really want to talk about it, but Coach Bryant, right? And when I talked to Coach Saban yesterday, he spoke of that. And, you know, that just right there told me just how humble he is and how grateful he has been to follow in someone else's shoes and continue to build on what we have here at Alabama. You know, I have so many mentors that have helped me get to this spot. I'm not going to get into it, but every player or every coach that I've sat in a film room with, a staff room, when I was an assistant, when I've been a head coach, the head coaches I've worked for, they hold such a strong spot in my heart because they've all helped me get to the place where I'm at today. And I'll get into the players and what I want to see out of them and how I want them to grow while they're here at Alabama. But I also want to make sure that the coaches that I continue to have the privilege to work with each and every day, each and every year, that they understand the commitment I have to them to help them meet their aspirations and goals. Many of them want to be coordinators, many of them want to be head coaches, and I'm looking forward to that journey for them. When I think about different words, and I'll have a few here that I'll bring to you. One of them's embrace, and I think you get the sense that embracing the tradition and embracing the athletic department is something that's very special to me. I also want you to know that you as a community, everyone here, I can't wait for my family and I to embrace you and you know, feel that same thing back to us. I know that that will be the case. I don't have to look much past last night when we flew in, and the welcome and the reception that was there. It was so awesome. It was not overwhelming, but it was very close to it, and I appreciate that. I think, want to make sure our alumni know that I'll embrace them, and that this will always be their place. This will always be their home. I know that so many have gone through and played for Coach Saban, and that should not change as far as how they feel about this place. And we need you. And you know, the investment hours that have been put in by me compared to what has made this place what it is, for me, it's very little. And I want to learn the stories. I want to learn all the great moments. I know many of them. I've watched from afar, but I know there's so many behind the scenes and things that are just important to the tradition and the alumni, and can't wait to have you here and hear all your great stories along the way. But, you know, I just want to reiterate my excitement. And, you know, people ask, I've already asked, like, why would you go to Alabama? Why? Well, I think there's a lot of really obvious answers, right? And I've touched on that. When it comes to tradition and the history of the program, it's second to none, okay? And when I look at places that I want to be, it's about winning championships. And that's an expectation that I cannot wait and accept as a privilege to try to uphold. Winning SEC championships, winning national championships. That's an expectation and a love and an interest that I've always had, and a passion that I'll have, and looking forward to carry on with our players, our staff, and all of you here as we go through these years ahead. The resources, the facilities, everything that can be here to support our players, our staff. That's my role as a head coach, is to provide that atmosphere, that environment. And when you have resources like we have here at Alabama, it makes my job easier, okay? And looking forward to utilizing and showing off these resources to those that want to be wearing the crimson. A belief of mine when it comes to just athletics is that it brings people together. Again, last night, right? People coming together, and in a much bigger fashion in this beautiful stadium here behind you. Bringing people together, bringing a community together. I'm learning about the enrollment of the university and how it's grown, you know, and that's, I know, a credit to what the football program has done, but also to everyone else, you know, buying into the philosophical beliefs of this great university. But when it comes to you know, bringing people together, that is a passion of mine. There's something special about, you know, being a head coach and the investment that goes into trying to make all the different pieces fit, having the right people in those places. And these facilities are awesome, but it's the people that make the place special. It truly is. And I felt that, and I've heard that from Greg as we talk, that you here, you all, you have made this special, and it's not just about these beautiful resources, these beautiful facilities. So I'm looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you. I think alignment is important. So when we're talking about, you know, why Alabama, alignment from president on through to Greg, to the head coach, and on down, I just think that the alignment and, you know, just everything that we're all trying to accomplish together and locking arms and fighting the same fight that we all want, and knowing that our passions are all the same, that alignment is critical. And the programs and the universities and all the different sport teams that have success, there's usually some sort of alignment. And we certainly have that here on a very strong level at Alabama, and I'm 100% convinced of that. When it comes to our goals, I shared with you, it's to win the SEC and a national championship. But how are we going to do that? We're going to do that with class. We're going to do it with integrity, okay, with academic excellence. And that is my job, to make sure we uphold the standard that has been set here at Alabama and continue to build on that. When it's about winning, you know, it's also about a culture. And I will share with our guys that as we already have here a culture that is contagious, and you'll hear me say that many times, I cannot wait to add to that, continue to make it to where you can feel through the TV screen when someone's watching a game how hard our guys play and how much they love each other and care for each other and how badly they want to win for all of you. And, you know, the culture will be contagious, and more people, just as it's been, will want to continue to be a part of this. And the last piece, when it comes to developing players athletically, academically, socially, and even spiritually, okay, and that being our focus as a staff, we, in the end, want to make sure that we're building better men. We want to build better men because someday, okay, football will be over, okay? Someday, real life will hit you in the face. And building better men in this time that we're going through, this phase in their life, it is one of the most influential that they will have. And it is a privilege, it is an honor to be someone in a position that can have that influence. And I don't take that lightly, and I will surround myself with a staff that will be great husbands, great fathers, great people, provide a template for our great players that come through here to understand what it looks like to be a man. And that's an awesome goal. Our staff will have a lot of attributes and qualities, and that will definitely be one of them. And so, you know, developing athletically, academically, socially, and spiritually. What's next? You know, as we build our team, last night just got to hear from some guys. Wasn't a lot of questions, especially as a whole team, but you know, you break off into little segments, and then they start talking, and that's what I want to hear. I want to hear what makes this place special. I want to hear about the traditions that I'm unaware of. I want to hear about all the things that really matter to them, and ingrain myself into what's been special about Alabama football. But it all starts with the relationships and communication, which builds the trust that we must have to step on the football field with great chemistry, as you've seen years upon years upon years. Okay, it isn't just about talent. Talent gets you a long ways, but the championship teams have something special. They have that it factor, and the relationships that we will build will help us have an accountability for each other. Okay, accountability to ourselves, accountability from coach to coach, coach to player, player to player, player to coach. We'll also form a brotherhood that is so tight, okay, that anything that comes our way will not break us. And we'll be tough. We call these our 3 non-negotiables that we will stand by. And the toughness piece, it's not just physical, okay, which is what Alabama football prides itself on. It will also be mental. Mental toughness, understanding how to handle adversity, because we understand the challenge that it takes to win a national championship. We understand that it's not easy. It never is, but anything worth anything at all is hard. And we're looking forward to that journey and to those challenges. When it comes to a style of football, I don't know what you've seen about how we've played, but obviously playing hard is a big piece of it. But what we try to do, it's always going to be around our personnel. It's always, yes, we're going to recruit the best, the highest character guys, but we're going to be able to have concepts and systems that are able to be adjusted to what we have and what our strengths are. As much as we have great players at every position, there are some positions that are stronger than others from year to year. And we will be explosive, I can promise you that. We will be aggressive, we will attack. And, we understand that the game was meant to be played one way still, and that's to be physical and dominate the line of scrimmage and control it from both sides of the ball will always be a staple of our program. And as we go through utilizing our personnel and having a dominant offense and defense along with fundamental special teams, I hope you guys enjoy coming to games and seeing how we play and enjoying, wanting to come in and cheer on and understand the guys that are wearing those helmets. They have a lot of talent, but they're really special people and pouring everything they can into it. When it comes to recruiting, and I can go on and on about how we will recruit, I understand it's the lifeblood of our program, and we can have great coaches, but the guys on the field are the ones that make the plays. And a relentless attitude, starting with first and foremost myself, and then leading to our staff. It's what it's going to take to be the best of the best here with tough competition here in the SEC and to win a national championship. I'm looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and going to work. And I want to say one more thing because this is something that's very important to me, and I wanted to say it last because I knew I might get emotional. I'm not sure, but I need to thank some people, okay, back in Washington. And it's a special place to me. It really is. And this was one of the few places, maybe the only place that I would have ever left to come coach at. Because I understand what Alabama football is all about. And those guys that I sat in front of a room yesterday, I know what they're going through because I saw the same thing less than 24 hours ago. And I just want to tell everyone, because I know they're watching, I just want to tell you guys I love you. I will miss you. And, I want nothing but the best for everyone back there. And the journey of the last 2 years have been special. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the new journey that lies ahead. I'm looking for those new challenges here. Cannot wait, like I said, to roll up my sleeves with all of you, with our team, okay, and go to battle each and every day, each and every week, each and every year. So, thank you, and roll tide.
Alrighty then. I didn't see that one coming. The Love family didn't see that one coming. The LaFleur family didn't see that one coming. Not even the Jones family and him plus 24 tickets saw that one coming. I don't think even the most optimistic Green Bay Packer fan saw that one coming. And even the Dallas Cowboy hater, I'll even say that, even the worst Dallas Cowboy hater could not have seen this tail kicking coming. I know everyone's going to be trolling, but holy smokes, the Green Bay Packers, the youngest team to make the NFL playoffs in 50 years, just strolled into a spot where no road team won all season long. None. You can make the argument the Cowboys were the best home team this year. That young team, youngest, greenest team, they put the green in Green Bay. The youngest team in 50 years just strolled into Dallas and put the most points Dallas has ever given up in a playoff game on these Cowboys, and became the first 7 seed to win a playoff game in Jordan Love's first playoff appearance, taking over for Aaron Rodgers. That just happened. They were awesome. Everybody, Dobbs, name anybody, everybody killed it. LaFleur killed it. Barry killed it, the defensive coordinator that everybody wanted to kill. Joe Barry was being run out on a rail. And they just won this playoff game, going away, putting Packers fans in a rocking chair pretty much from jump, with a 12-play drive to start the game, to take half the quarter away, then get the ball back, then score again, then pick 6, Dak. I'm going to choose to use this moment to talk about the Packers, because boy, are we going to be talking about the Cowboys and who's next there. Is McCarthy going to eat it? Is it Belichick? Pretty much could be anybody who's out there available if Jerry Jones wants to go in that direction. You know he doesn't. But holy smokes, Green Bay is now heading to San Francisco, and they do the Lions a huge favor, despite all that, reporting is eligible hoopla costing them the 2 seed. They're now the 2nd highest seed in the NFC playoffs as I'm talking into this microphone. And if they beat the Rams tonight, they get another home playoff game. But if they don't, believe it or not, what this sets up, if the Rams win tonight, this sets up the Monday Night Football Super Wild Card Weekend finale for the right to host a playoff game next week. Yes, the Eagles could not only last longer than the Dallas Cowboys if they win on Monday night in Tampa, but if the Rams win tonight and knock out the Lions, the Eagles could host a divisional playoff game. What the hell's going on? And that is the headline of the Green Bay Packers. Kudos, congratulations to them. Man, and the Dallas Cowboys, what the hell was that? Awful. I mean, talk about going down in flames. Wow. Congratulations, Green Bay fans. You have every right to just be on cloud 9. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.
Now, where to begin with the disaster that was the day for the Dallas Cowboys? I mean, the Packers were brilliant, but the Cowboy defense, led by Dan Quinn, which was the backbone of this team, they were allowing 18.5 points per game. That was 5th in the league this year. They allowed 48 points yesterday. Granted, one of them was a pick 6, but even so, it's the most in the 67 playoff games the Cowboys have played in their franchise's history. And we're sort of all over this thing this morning, and the conversation has jumped in a million different directions. And D. Wood has jumped into the conversation. Dan is in Tampa Bay. Shefty is on the way. Chris Canty today as well. But D. Wood, let's hear from you this morning. We have been trying to assign blame, and candidly, it was such an epic meltdown for the Cowboys. There has been plenty to go around. But if someone were to ask you this morning, what was the single biggest reason the Cowboys got blown out in their own building yesterday, what was it?
Matt LaFleur's brilliance. I mean, think about this, Greeny. The Green Bay Packers are the youngest team in the National Football League. Matt LaFleur had those guys ready to go against a team that was the most dominant team at home in the National Football League. Literally, the Dallas Cowboys were just absolutely throttling teams at home. And he had that team ready to go. The one thing I said last week going into this game is that the Dallas Cowboys are a front-running team. They jump on you early and then they steamroll you. Well, Matt LaFleur had those guys ready to go. They jumped out early and they never looked back. From the scheme, the preparation, he coached circles around Dan Quinn and company yesterday. And I just got to tip my cap to Matt LaFleur, man, because that's not an easy task. Those guys were prepared and ready to go.
That's well said. And the and company, of course, is the head coach, Mike McCarthy. And so let me come to you on that, Dan Orlovsky. This was not the kind of game, and you could see the shock in the face and the tone of Jerry Jones after the game yesterday. This was not a decision he was expecting to have to make this quickly. I don't think any of us were expecting that. This did not feel like the kind of game from which you just run everything back. We bring back the coaching staff. We bring back the quarterback. We just bring everything back. What's the big change that you make this morning, Dan Orlovsky, if you own the Dallas Cowboys?
Everyone, I restart everything. Green, I was born in 1983. That's the most dominant and embarrassing loss I've seen the Cowboys have for a good football team. Just to put this game into context, so anybody that matters, like the most important pieces, I'm changing it all. I'm changing it all. To put it into context, this game, okay? Because a lot of people are running from the truth in this one. This is the highest expectations the Cowboys have had in probably 3 decades. Rightfully so. Okay, this is a football team that had won 15 straight games at home. They were averaging almost 40 points per game at home. They had a quarterback who, rightfully so, was in the MVP conversation this year. They had a wide receiver who was in the Offensive Player of the Year conversation. They had 3 offensive linemen make All-Pro. They got a tight end in Ferguson who's one of the best young tight ends in the NFL. They got a guy in Micah Parsons who many people say is in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. They got 15 Pro Bowlers, who's the second most in the NFL. And they got dump trucked. Dump trucked. Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott, when they play San Francisco and Green Bay, are 0-5. They lose by an average of 13 points in that game. They got to restart everything. And for everyone that's going to say, well, what are you going to go to? I don't know right now. The game happened 18 hours ago. But there's no way that people in that building, the way that those most important decision makers are in that place, can sit here and think in their soul that they can go win a big game when it matters the most. No way. I restart everything.
Everybody ready to dive in. I'll get back to you, Dean, what I promised. Rex, if your inclination tends to be to defend the coach. And Mike McCarthy, there are ways to defend him. He's won 12 games in the last 3, each of the last 3 regular seasons. There are very few head coaches who can do that. That is success in and of itself. Yeah. If you were the owner of the team this morning, would you make a coaching change?
I would not. I would not. And, I mean, we can't just ignore the fact that this man's won 12 games 3 years in a row. We can't ignore it, all right, against a pretty dang good conference. But the thing is, too, he put himself out there. He said, I'm going to be the play caller. I'm going to do all that. We saw their offense really improve, made strides, okay? The thing that they got to look at is how are we going to, like, championship medal is won games in December and January. How are we going to get there? To me, you don't get there by getting destroyed at the line of scrimmage, especially defensively. Like, are you kidding me? We've got to have in a personnel thing. We've got to bring in a linebacker. We've got to bring in some maybe bigger bodies up front. But we just can't take an ass whipping. And to me, that's the thing. Dan Quinn is an outstanding coach. Okay, he really is. But he needs to do it from a lead. We've got to get how. We saw it in Atlanta. What happened? Major collapse when in a Super Bowl.
Well, they had the lead. Yeah,
they did. Yeah. And then they had a major collapse. We've got to look at how are we going to get there.
It's hard.
Go ahead.
It's hard to make an argument against what Dan is saying, except for it's just crazy. You have useful pieces. Your answer is blow up everything. I agree that if you get beat offensively, defensively, and on special teams, in several years in a row, you have embarrassing exits. Last year, they were not better than the team that they lost to. That's fine. You expect that sometimes you're going to be able to win those games. You're not able to do it. I get where Dan's coming from, but I stop at the quarterback. We start talking about getting rid of everybody, and it's not just, I get Dan's point that arguing, well, it could get worse, well, you're not going to win a Super Bowl. I get that that's not a legitimate argument to keep holding on to, but Dak is good, bordering on great. The trouble with it is he needs a little bit of help. There are quarterbacks in this league that need a little bit of help. But there's only 3 or 4 guys.
I'm sorry. He has it, Neek.
He didn't have it yesterday.
But because he was a big part of the problem. and his defense was awful. But he just said it. He's got C.D. Lamb and Jake Ferguson and Tony Pollard and 3 All-Pros on the offensive line.
They need to show up.
They got to give him $60 million. They got to give $30 million or $20-something million to C.D. Lamb. They got to give $20-something million to Micah Parsons. This was their
The hardest thing to find in this league and the most difficult thing to replace is the quarterback position. If you think that you can get a quarterback that's slightly worse than Dak for a lot cheaper, by all means, go ahead and try. But most teams in the league spend every season looking for a quarterback and not finding them. Except for the Green Bay Packers, move on from him. He's going to be back to Quincy Carter days.
How about the coach?
The coach is harder to defend. It depends on who you're going to move on to, but he's a lot harder to defend.
D. Wood, what changes are you making this morning if you're Jerry?
I'm damn sure getting rid of the coach. I'm damn sure getting rid of the coach. I don't want to hear a damn thing. Listen, we talk about, I don't want to hear about no 12-5 wins. That's not it when it comes to the Cowboys. Everything when it comes to the Cowboys is about the postseason. We've been talking about it year after year after year. It's the postseason. What are you going to do in nut crunching time? When everything's on the line, what are you going to do? And yesterday, we saw Matt LaFleur with the youngest team in the league in Green Bay go into Jerry's world where they've been the most dominant team at home of any ball club in the National Football League and absolutely dominate them. And are we expected to run that back? That would be crazy. Guess what? Detroit's not going anywhere. Green Bay's not going anywhere. San Francisco's not going anywhere. I could go on and on. These teams are going to get better in the conference. We just said the Dallas Cowboys, this was their best opportunity in like a quarter of a century to get to the Super Bowl, and they got their ass handed to them yesterday, and we're supposed to run it back? Like, come on, man. Like, Jerry Jones said it himself. Jerry Jones said it himself. He doesn't have much time left, okay? He doesn't have much time left. Running it back would be just stupid. It would be totally stupid to run it back.
Dan, we're about to have, first of all, I co-sign everything Damian Woody just said, and I co-sign his passion for it. Dan Orlovsky, we're going to have Shefty in a couple of minutes. You know what was all over Twitter yesterday. The name Bill Belichick is trending. Do you see any way in the world that there could be a marriage between Belichick and Jerry Jones? Dan?
Oh, absolutely. Now, Coach Belichick would have to be on board with Jerry Jones and the front office, which the front office has done a great job of acquiring talent. He'd have to be okay with that. That's probably needed given what's happened in New England over the past couple years. The biggest question with all of this is going to be this. If the Cowboys move on from Mike McCarthy, and results are what results are, okay? Are you, the next head coach, if that is the case, good with paying Dak Prescott $60+ million? Because if you are, you're going to be hampered a little bit. That's just the truth. Bill Belichick's going to have to be okay with if they choose to pay Dak Prescott $60+ million. When we have the proof of what happens in the playoffs, you're going to have to be okay with that.
Well, you know what else we have the proof?
Yeah.
If Bill Belichick doesn't have a quarterback, he won 4 games this year. He's 29-37 since Tom Brady left.
Win the Super Bowl next year with Dak.
All I know is I'm taking Dak Prescott. If you have Bill Belichick or anybody else, I'm giving Dak Prescott the money.
All right, everyone stay where you are. Shefty, you saw it. I mean, the whole world is ready to fire Mike McCarthy yesterday, but only one person gets to make that decision. Now, you have reported all along that the way the Cowboys season ended would play a significant role in how this thing turned out. Well, it ended as badly as it possibly could. What do we expect?
Well, everybody's waiting to see what the fallout is today, this week, whenever, because it could come at any time. And everybody wants to see what Jerry Jones ultimately decides. And as you mentioned in the last segment, I don't think he was ready and prepared to have to make this decision today. So he has to process all the information. But as you said there, Greeny, and as I've been told all year long, Mike McCarthy always was going to be judged by how Dallas's last game of the season ended. Well, the last game of the season ended yesterday. It didn't work out well for Mike McCarthy. It didn't work out well for Dak Prescott. It didn't work out well for defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, who's a candidate for other head coaching jobs. So everybody associated with Dallas yesterday was tarred in one way or another. And as I was flying down to Tampa from Bristol, Connecticut yesterday afternoon and watching this game on TV, streaming the game, it reminded me a lot of the Thursday night Chargers-Raiders game when the Chargers were getting blown out, and I must have gotten 20 texts from people across the league saying, Brandon Staley's going to get fired tomorrow. He has to get fired tomorrow, right? I could not believe how much reaction it generated. It was a replay yesterday, flying down with the Dallas Cowboys and Mike McCarthy. Text pouring in. Bill Belichick's on Zillow looking for homes in Dallas. Mike McCarthy's out. They have to make the move. It was a replay. It reminded me so much of that Thursday night. And now it really is up to Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, to decide how they want to handle this. Mike McCarthy's got 1 year left in his contract. It is tough to bring back a coach in the last year of his contract. But I also would say this. He did that with Jason Garrett. He made Jason Garrett coach into the last year of his deal. Don't know that it worked out the way that anybody would have wanted, but he's done that before. I think the feeling around the league is it would be hard to imagine him doing that now, but that's a decision that Jerry and Stephen Jones have to make regarding the future of the Dallas Cowboys. And as you know, as we've heard, people want blood.
Look, he's so bombastic that sometimes we associate him with people like George Steinbrenner, but he couldn't be more the opposite. He's actually shown great patience, sometimes to a fault. Shefty mentioned with Jason Garrett. Nick, you've been fighting back on Dak all morning long, but as far as the coach, if you owned the team, would you make a coaching change?
Well, yeah, I think you have to at this point, given the way that everything is played out and what he said before the game. If he said it's going to be about this last game, it couldn't have been any worse in this last game. So if that's what he said, if he meant it when he said it, he has to follow with that. The Dak conversation, to me, is absurd. Moving on from him in this situation is ridiculous. But Mike McCarthy, yeah, the coach, and when you have failures everywhere, the head coach, somebody's got to pay, and it's normally him.
Rex, Bill Belichick to Dallas. Come on. He's on Zillow. Shefty's been mentioning it. It was all over the place yesterday. But you know this league better than anybody. Is that, if they are going to make a change, does that feel like a sensible direction for them to go?
No, it doesn't. And I'm going to tell you why. Number one, Jerry Jones is the face of this franchise. As soon as you get Bill Belichick in, now he becomes the face of the franchise. Belichick's only going to take a job, in my opinion, where he has complete control of the entire, the personnel, all of that. That's not going to happen with Jerry Jones. So to me, I don't see it happening. Shefty's shaking his head. He knows a lot more about it than I do, but I'm just telling you, in my opinion, it doesn't work.
I could see Shefty out of the corner of my eye as well.
Rex.
We have this. Go ahead, Shefty, no?
Rex, Bill Belichick wants to coach football. If it happened to be in Dallas, if Dallas made the move and Jerry went to Bill and said, I wanted you to come coach the Cowboys, I think Bill would be good with the setup that would be there. I don't think he's going to go in and say, well, you all step aside, I'm going to run this whole thing, or I'm not coming. I don't think it would be like that. Listen, what did Bill Belichick say exactly 1 week ago in the press conference in New England? 1 week ago, he told the reporters there, I don't have to make all the personnel decisions. I'm willing to give up some of that control. He told that to them. That was before they parted ways this week. If an opportunity like Dallas were to come along and he were interested in it, I think he would be willing to collaborate in whatever way it took.
Let me get Dan in. Go,
Listen,
Dan.
I don't know Jerry Jones. Yeah, Greeny, I don't know Jerry Jones at all. Obviously, he's a tremendous owner and businessman. If they run it back, don't tell me you're serious about winning a Super Bowl. Don't tell me you are. You can wordplay all of us in press conference. If you run it back and don't make legit changes, don't say that you actually want to win a Super Bowl. The last 3 playoff runs, you've been whooped by San Francisco. You've been whooped by San Francisco, and you got embarrassed. Embarrassing endings of the games, and you got embarrassed by the youngest team in the NFL. And here's the other aspect of this. I'm not calling for coaches' jobs anymore. I did that when I was younger in this profession. I promised to myself I wouldn't do it. But I know this. In this coaching cycle, Mina Kimes made this point 10 days ago. It's Bill Belichick, it's Mike Vrabel, it's Jim Harbaugh, it's Ben Johnson. I mean, this is a world-class coaching cycle right now. You want to stand pat with what you've witnessed, with what you saw yesterday, don't tell me you're serious about winning Super Bowls.
Well, I'm going to say this. First off, Ben Johnson's a different story right there. That makes more sense. Got a superstar possibly in the making. I'm not going to take, and Bill Belichick, sure, I get it. This team would be incredible, all right? You got Dak Prescott, a great quarterback and all that. I just don't see it darn happening. We're going to throw away, everybody, we're criticizing this guy. They had how many Pro Bowlers? 12 Pro Bowlers? Yeah. They're doing something right in Dallas.
Oh, my gosh, Rex.
They are.
Dan, you don't get to say that you're not calling for people's jobs.
And then call for their jobs.
And then follow up and call for people's jobs. But anyway.
I'm not calling for anybody's job, but they got to fight.
But if you're serious about winning a Super Bowl, you better make some changes.
That's right.
Just stand on it.
Let's do it. All three of us, let's get up and give TJ Jefferson a hug. A group hug. Group hug. Group hug. Get over, Mike. Group hug. Group hug. This is what friends are for. Oh, man. Do you want to linger, or are we done? Are we done? Is this good enough? Okay, very good.
Thank you. I do that. Yeah.
Better?
I mean, a little bit. You know, that was a first. So you know,
no, I didn't even say pre-show. That's what we're gonna do.
You know, that was a first.
Oh,
so,
man.
I mean, Mike's been waiting to hit this, so let's let him just.
That's all right. It's okay. It's all right. Go ahead, hit it.
How about them Cowboys?
That's Stephen A.
Oh,
I can't tell which one. Is that the most recent one, or
that's from? Did it yesterday?
Oh, he did because he was saving it for his show.
Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry, TJ.
I mean,
sorry, brother.
You know, I kind of told you on Friday what was going to happen.
Well, we'll get to your innermost thoughts in a second. Listen, I didn't see that coming. I don't think anybody in Dallas certainly saw that coming. I mean, maybe in his heart of hearts, Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, they thought it would be possible to see it coming. Maybe. A 27-0 lead in Dallas by the Green Bay Packers. The Packers going in and taking the Dallas Cowboys with their 12 wins, 8 of them at home, and breaking them off into 2, and taking their Green Bay Packer offense and defense and breaking it off where the sun doesn't shine, and taking the Dallas Cowboys' most promising season in a long time, and certainly just to break the 8-year drought of getting back to the NFC Championship game, and at least removing that from the equation. Their best chance of getting that, a 2 seed in the playoffs, which in many respects they earned. In some respects, the eligible snafu at the end of the second to last Saturday of the season that sent the Lions to a 3 seed and the Cowboys to a 2 seed. That was the latest sign that this is all breaking Dallas way in a way that we haven't seen. And the Packers broke something off on them. And the Cowboys looked like they hadn't played a game together this year. Dak Prescott, MVP. CeeDee Lamb, Offensive Rookie of the Year. And they may wind up as both, by the way, because that's a regular season award. All the votes are already in. This has nothing to do with what is being voted on for the end of season awards given out the Thursday before the Super Bowl that the Cowboys now officially won't be in.
Offensive Player of the Year, Rich.
Offensive Player of the Year. What did I say, rookie? My bad. That's the other quarterback in Dallas. Got Stroud on the brain a little bit. But Offensive Player of the Year. Looked like he was upset with his quarterback. And not as upset as he needed to be with the Green Bay Packers. Strahan hit it right on the head. Stray was like, CeeDee Lamb's getting shoved when he's out of bounds, and he doesn't even look back at the Packers who are doing it to him. It looked like the Cowboys quit. That's a fact. I am not mincing words. The Dallas Cowboys looked like they quit. that a younger, hungrier, better coached, better prepared team came into their house. Youngest team assembled in the history of the Super Bowl era. Comes into Dallas and hands the Cowboys arguably the toughest home team to beat this year. Their first home loss. And it wasn't even close. They couldn't throw it. They couldn't run it. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. Even Brandon Aubrey hit an upright. Honestly, they couldn't do anything right. Nothing. And they're lucky to have gotten a point on the board before halftime. The way that they were playing and needed a flag to help stop a clock when Dak throws short of the end zone with no timeouts left. It just was awful. Soup to nuts. The first 2 seed to lose to a 7 seed. The Dallas Cowboys, let me just keep going here. I'm sorry. I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off for you, TJ.
Yeah, let's get it out.
I'm sorry, but the Cowboys have not advanced beyond the divisional round since 95, as we know. They're now 5-13 in the playoffs since 96. Only team with 10 or more losses or 5 or fewer wins in that span. The Cowboys had 9 wins of 20 or more points in 2023, tied for most for second in the Super Bowl era. Only the Patriots of 07 had more. They had 10. The 99 St. Louis Rams were the other team with 9, and the 96 Packers had 8. All 3 of those other teams had what in common? I'll tell you, they made the Super Bowl. This team was one and done at home. And then comes the fact that Dak Prescott is now 2-5 in his playoff career. That's tied for the worst of any such winning percentage, with a minimum of 5 starts. And then there's the case of Mike McCarthy, friend of the program, but these are just all facts here. Facts. The 3 playoff eliminating losses. One of them against the Niners in 2021 in the wild card when time ran out. They couldn't spot the ball. Then next year to the Niners in the divisional round after whatever the heck that last play involving Ezekiel Elliott's career in Dallas was. And then this one. So, of course, everybody ran to Jerry Jones after the game and said, what about your coach? And he, of course, wasn't prepared for this. This makes total sense, the answer you're about to hear, because I remember when we were in New Orleans on a Saturday night and the Cowboys season with the son of Bum, Wade Phillips, was circling around the drain, and he didn't want to fire Wade Phillips at all. Jerry Jones has, for some reason, the reputation of having a quick trigger finger. He does not. He does not. He hung on to Wade Phillips for a long time and then wound up firing him in the middle of the season because he had no other choice. We all know, we saw Jason Garrett on NBC last night, how long he lasted there. So everybody ran up to Jerry and thought, okay, this is the end of Mike McCarthy, right? He wasn't prepared for it. Hit it.
Really, I can't reach back and look at a playoff loss, but this seems like the most painful because we all had such great expectation and we had hope for this team, and thought that we were aligned in great shape, and it didn't happen for us, and it's as fresh on me right now as it is on anybody else. But I won't get into any of the addressing of any aspects of it, any part of it, from the coaching to the players to what's around the corner. I know where the responsibility starts and ends, and I've got that real clear, and I know that. But that's not the point. The point is that I'm disappointed for everybody. No, I don't want to rank it, but I will tell you that I'm floored. This is beyond my comprehension.
Floored and beyond his comprehension. And again, I don't blame them the way that they were playing this year. Many opportunities for me to join the bandwagon of just you wait, the Stephen A. Smith bandwagon of just you wait, it's going to come. I didn't hop on it. I believed that they had the pieces, and now it's smashed into a million pieces. And look, folks, I understand Detroit just won their first home playoff game in 30-something years, first playoff game in a long time. And I understand the Texans have made the Final Four in the AFC, and the Chiefs flipped the switch. I get it. I totally understand all of that. But the Dallas Cowboys just went down in complete and utter flames, and Bill Belichick is sitting out there at home waiting for a phone to ring. These are all facts, all right? And if the guy who once upon a time reached out to the vine on which Belichick is the fruit and said, you come here and we'll figure out a way for us to try and win games and make the playoffs and win a Super Bowl, which Parcells did not. You know he's got to be sitting there thinking about Belichick at some point. It just depends how he woke up today in his silk pajamas. And the question is, like, did he throw the bed covers off and see the head of the Dallas Cowboys 2023 season there, and he's screaming his head off, and he needs to make a deal. He needs to make that deal. He needs to tell the band leader, you got the part. And is Belichick the band leader? These are all facts. And the question is what's he thinking? And Dan Quinn's defense gets eviscerated. I don't blame Jerry Jones having issues computing this in first blush moments. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free. I know so many Lions fans from my time in Ann Arbor. So many. You know, when they were trying to restore the roar. I remember in 87 or 88, the Jets came in and played the Lions in the Silverdome. And I went to that game. And when we walked into the Silverdome, I swear to you, they told us, take any seat you want. I'm serious. That happened. We sat 10 rows from the Jet behind the Jet sideline. We chose any of them. We chose them right on the 50. Walked in. We didn't buy tickets in the 50. And by the way, but there wasn't, like game time tickets or anything back then. Right. We had to go up to the box office, pick up our tickets, paper tickets, and then hand them to an usher who basically looked at us like, what are you, crazy? Just choose whatever seat you want. I swear to you, that happened. That happened. And then, of course, the Wayne Fonts era, the Restore the Roar, which is the last time that they won a divisional crown in a home playoff game in 91, and I was already gone. But, of course, I keep in touch with a ton of people from my Michigan days, and a handful of them are diehard Lions fans, and they cannot believe what is happening right now. Didn't they show, an 89-year-old gentleman who's a 66-year season ticket holder? Yeah. And Tirico gave terrific voice. He lives in Ann Arbor. He gives terrific voice. He gave a great voice to what folks there are feeling right now, that they cannot believe that the Lions are not only good, but good enough, and also to be feared. To be feared. And I think Dan Campbell is the personification of that. And, their quarterback, who here in Los Angeles, kind of put the Bambi in Rams, you know what I mean? And he's got the red ass in him, too. I wonder if he's picking that up from his coach a little bit now. I'm sure he's the same guy that he was here in Los Angeles, but the throws he's making, you give him a clean pocket. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, this is kind of crazy. It's kind of like, when you get fined for a flag, you didn't get called for a penalty, but you get fined. he doesn't make the Pro Bowl, but he makes the All-Pro list. Okay. Sounds good. It's a popularity contest, I guess, for the Pro Bowl, but that's an All-Pro wide receiver. I'm pleased to say, even though I thought the Rams were going to win this game, and they came close, I'm pleased to say, didn't I tell you last year Amon-Ra St. Brown was a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, and he's now a first-team All-Pro?
Sun God. The
Sun God is dynamite. And the rest of those receivers, along with Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, it looked like it was going to be a Gibbs game last night, too. They got the Thunder and the Lightning in the backfield. Montgomery brings the wood, and Gibbs brings the lightning. And the line is really stout. And then there's my guy. You want to change a culture. And this is what's so cool about the subset and that Venn diagram of Michigan fans in this circle and Lions fans in this circle. They certainly interact. Trust me, there's a lot of Spartan in that fan base as well that hopefully is enjoying the week, but not as much as Wolverine fans are right now. But Aiden Hutchinson is a culture changer. Michigan, I felt it when he started balling out. A couple of his sacks, as Chris Long pointed out last night, his 2 sacks were just touching Stafford when he,
Yeah, the first one, Stafford tripped over his own feet.
Right.
Yeah,
and then he touched him. Yeah. Cooper was like, "That's a sack for Hutchinson, Dad." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right."
He gets credit.
And then there was another one where he was stumbling for the line of scrimmage and fell about a yard short, and then he touched him there. But the one was, again, 3rd down last night. Rams are driving. They need a field goal to take a lead. They could play with the clock, kick that field goal, take the lead, and maybe not leave enough time left for Goff. And Hutchinson gets to Stafford to the point where he's held. And that changed a lot of the dynamic, obviously. I'll say this for Rams fans. Puka Nacua was held on that 3rd down attempt to try and get a first. What looked like one of those famed dig routes. He definitely had his jersey, his 17 jersey, yanked. Handful of missed calls in this game.
They've got a lot going in this game, I thought.
And so, put it all together, though, the Lions came up with that 1st down when they did get the opportunity to get the ball back, and the Rams only had 1 timeout left. They got 2 first downs to wrap it. And the Lions move on. And I can only think of all those Lions fans that I met on campus all those years ago, right? We talked about how I looked at the Michigan Wolverines championship as a marking of time. My God. There was no 97 for Lions fans like there was a split title for me. There was no 97. This is what Dan Campbell had to say about the atmosphere in that building after the game.
That is arguably the best environment I've ever been in. That was absolutely electric. And I think what's crazy is I was coming down for pregame warm-up, and you could just feel it. It was humming. The building was humming. And I swear you could feel the electricity down the tunnel from where I was coming down. And it only just grew from there. So, man, our fans showed up in a big way. That was clearly, and I thought, man, for 2 years now, that building's been rocking. It was different today. That was a whole nother level, which is what the playoffs are all about. So our fans showed up in a big way. They helped us win this game.
Nobody's laughing at Dan Campbell's first press conference anymore, right? It's now used as sort of well, this is where we learned that he's just a different cat. Because, in all honesty, the Rams took a hunk out of him. And then they bit off both their kneecaps. Because that was a physical battle. That was one of my favorite wild card games in a long time. Because Stafford showed up in that environment slinging it. When he came out with that no-look sidearm, I thought, okay, he's locked. That was after Goff started the game with the first of 3 75-yard touchdown drives to start the game, and the Rams stayed in it, made it 21-17 at half. The margin of difference was the first drive that the Rams had stalled inside the 10-yard line, and that was part of their bugaboo. You remember they lost a game in Cincinnati this year. They There were some red zone problems. We'll talk about the Rams later on, but for the moment, the Lions took Stafford's best punch. McVay had some, and Nakua. Boy, did they take some really tough punches from the Rams, but they wound up doing exactly what Dan Campbell had to say when he first took the gig, and everybody thought, this guy's not serious. He's not serious people, you know, and now you got to take him seriously, because this whole eligible gate thing that you thought was going to cost him a second playoff game at home, that's over. The Packers, you have to thank the Packers for that in Detroit. Isn't that interesting? Strange bedfellows. But the enemy of your enemy is your friend.
Correct.
So they get one, and it's going to be, you know, pretty wild when we find out who wins tonight's game's got to go to Detroit. And instead, had the Rams won that, tonight's game would have been for the right to host the Rams. Last night, had the Rams pulled it off, tonight's game, the Eagles could have wound up watching the Cowboys get eliminated and still host a playoff game on divisional playoff weekend. We came that close to it.
The Rams could have hosted the NFC Championship game.
Against the Packers.
Yeah.
That's crazy stuff happens. We're finding out, you know, when a 7 seed is the first winner in a conference playoff race. In a conference tournament, if the first team to win it is a 7 seed, you know, crazy things can happen. They become a step closer to reality, but the Lions eventually prevailed. And I cannot congratulate all those Michiganders that I met years ago. And honestly, the only thing that would be for me is if the Jets, who, as you know, have not made the playoffs, kids have been born in bar mitzvah since the Jets last made the playoffs. And so for me, Michigan winning a national championship and then the Jets winning a playoff game to get one step closer to the Super Bowl, that would have been something. But still, the Jets have been to the playoffs and won a playoff game in the last 30 years. The Lions have not, and to them I say congratulations. Soak it in. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free. You know how the NFL films famed shot of a tight spiral and you widen out? Seriously, tell me who throws a better spiral than Matthew Stafford? Consistently.
Jordan Love?
Yeah, I mean, we're beginning to see that.
Man.
He's only got a dozen more years to go to match Stafford right now.
Stafford's near the top of the list. He throws one of the prettiest balls.
Matthew Stafford is no doubt on a Hall of Fame path right now. I fully believe it. He's got statistics for it. He's got a trophy for it. If he gets another trophy, I think we're done. Personally,
no doubt he's gonna have a lot of records.
One wide receivers in the Hall of Fame that he threw to, right? Triple Crown season for Calvin.
Yep.
Cooper Kupp, Triple Crown season for him. Who is his quarterback? Puka Nacua sets the rookie receiving record for catches and yards. Who is his quarterback? Right? He makes the guys around him better. He takes the Rams and wins a Super Bowl in his first season there. Good dude, too, man. This is what he had to say after the game last night. It had to be tough, to go into this stadium and try to one and done everybody. There was some boos for him, right, at the start? Were there some boos? And then they were chanting his name at the end. I saw, he came running out, and there was somebody who's, screaming boos and flipping birds. Well, it's not like Bulls fans going to, Jerry Krause. Yeah. But, I get it. I don't know, but I think at the end they were chanting his name. They were chanting Goff's name. It's unfortunate that his return is in a game where now we got to turn our back on you.
Sure.
But this is what he had to say about Goff winning the battle, the first ever playoff battle between two quarterbacks that were traded for one another.
It was a good playoff atmosphere. Obviously it was a loud crowd. I thought we did a great job communicating the whole day. It was a good playoff atmosphere.
They were chanting Garrett's name. They were booing you. How's chanting? And you were chanting it for him like that? I
don't know. You're testing old man's memory here. No, I You almost hope they would, right? I mean, the guy's he's their quarterback. He's playing great. He led them to a win today. I'm happy for him. I thought he played excellent today. He's leading an offense that's playing at a really good clip right now, and they should be proud of him. They should be cheering for him. Excuse me? It was a playoff game. You know, I'm not surprised that they were excited about cheering for their team, and I'm not too worried about anybody's personal feelings towards me that was sitting in the stands.
Look, man, you can't blame him for going into the ownership's office and say, can we end this now? Can we go? Can you get me somewhere else? After all that time, I mean, if people still harbor any of that ill will, I mean, let's enjoy the playoff win that you have over him. Look, 25 or 36, 367 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Good Lord. Good Lord.
He looked amazing.
He is so good, and I know there's no banners for we were better than anybody thought we would be. But the Rams were exactly that, and you could make a case that this is going to be like Les Needs first. Would you say with Sean McVay, like straight up normal draft? You know what I mean, where they have full complement and they reloaded supposedly when they didn't have enough draft picks, and they're supposed to pay the salary cap reaper. They won 10 games and made the playoffs, and they found another cup. Their cup runneth over.
He's better than Cooper Kupp right now.
I mean, dude. Yeah. Although it does look like Higbee might have blown his knee out because on that hit he took low. By the way, I will echo what Chris Collinsworth said in the game. You name any tight end. Oh yeah. Go high. Don't go with my knees.
Gronk had been
Come up
saying
here.
that years ago.
Right. But the Rams they look great. Kyron Williams, the offensive line, and the coaches obviously terrific. Great job by the Rams this year. You guys thought, you season ticket holders, thought that letter that Kevin Demoff sent out in March was a white flag.
Seemed like it
just,
at the time.
hey, we're CYAing to you season ticket holders. We trade Jalen Ramsey, and we're not going to, hey, stick with us when we stink this year. They made the playoffs, and they damn near beat the second best team, as it looks like, in the NFC. In their house.
And you mentioned the drafters. They have 10 draft picks.
Dude.
Coming up this year, including a first rounder finally.
Way.
So they got a lot of compensatory picks. So they have a lot of assets to make moves.
Because they hire diverse people who then get hired. Brad Holmes, the general manager of the team that just beat them. A perfect example. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free. Kansas City found the light switch, and they started flipping it to see if it goes up. Everyone's wondering, did they flip a switch? They found a switch, I believe. Now, did they keep it on? Is it flipped on? They had problems in the red zone. If Miami had only been able to put one more touchdown on the board while they were settling for Harrison Butker field goals in the negative 20-degree feels like temperature, this thing would have been a little bit more tight. But Mahomes on a 4th down runs for a 1st down. He runs for a 1st down in the red zone that cracked his helmet. I mean, the Mahomes that is going to be difficult to put down on the ground. He's healthier, I would think, now than last year. Remember, it was all ankle watch last year? Absolutely. So we're checking that box. You're getting a better, more healthier Mahomes now than you had last year. And he's running for 1st downs like he's still 22. Rashee Rice is 100% the guy they needed to have come to the fore in the playoffs. And he showed up with a $130 with 8 catches and a score. And it looked like he got hurt at one point. He comes back in. Pacheco, check that box. Can he be the bell cow in the playoffs? Last year, remember, he was still just a young pup. Rashee Rice was in college. I'm concerned that Kelsey dropped a couple, but he's still Travis freaking Kelsey. And that defense, 100% is championship quality. Karlaftis, add him to the mix. Nick Bolton is back. L'Jarius Sneed is getting in your face. And Andy Reid's mustache went from Reid to Lorax to full-on Brimley.
Lorax.
All right? It just kept going icier and icier and icier. So they looked at the elements and were like, yeah, okay, so what? We'll talk about the Dolphins another day. We're talking about the world champs making it to the divisional round. And I know Buffalo's like, bring them. Okay. Okay.
Be nice if you're the Bills to play them on your home turf in the playoffs
great
for once.
For a change.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Better than the other way around. But that was some of the better Kansas City Chiefs football play we've seen in a while. And it wasn't mistake-free,
right?
But it wasn't like, what's the matter with these guys? At all. One last thing. We showed a photograph of Taylor Swift. I can't believe I have to say this. I'm just going to say it. I tweeted it out. And this isn't virtue signaling or anything stupid like that. What is the matter with people? The toxic masculinity that shows up in my Twitter timeline, my ex timeline, because she's having fun at a football game. I honestly don't understand it.
Because not everybody wants to see
what
6 shots of her during the game.
No, I get it.
As opposed to
it's what? Like, honestly,
so mustache shots.
I mean, people are there for the football. Maybe,
but she's the most famous. She's literally one of the most famous people on planet Earth at a football game, seemingly enjoying herself. She's never going to be anonymous the rest of her life. What is she supposed to do? Just sit there in a corner and not support her boyfriend? Is that what it's? Is it just like? And if they keep showing shots of her, I understand. Like, let's see her after Kelsey drops a pass. Really? I mean, what's the big deal? As a matter of fact, this is the greatest thing ever. There's a whole bunch of people that normally don't watch football games that are watching just to see her on the screen. Put her up there. So what? So you're like, oh, I got to be bothered. I got to be zeroed in on the zero coverage. Like I gotta know more about the too deep safeties. Like you're taking away my football enjoyment just by showing a shot of her. I don't understand it.
I just want a Taylor cast.
No, you don't, Mike. No, you don't. Stop lying.
No,
I'm with you.
I don't get it. Just go on with your lives. They showed 15 shots of Jerry Jones. What do you got a problem with that?
Yeah, I don't understand the difference.
You know what I mean? Like, well, one is he's a football guy, and I want to see him look miserable. If you're a hater of the Cowboys, or I don't get it. It's just like, what is it about her that it, blaming her for any of the issues for Kelsey or the team? It's just like, get over yourselves. Like, it's saying more about you than it is about her.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not looking for free tickets. Trust me.
I think your Twitter's going to reflect this afternoon.
Well, whatever. So what? It's already in there. I don't get it.
Well, I think people will. I just have a feeling. Those who feel that way will express themselves.
Well, then karma's a boy in El Segundo. I'm referring to myself.
Hey, Rich, real quick, you mentioned L'Jarius Sneed earlier. Tyreek Hill on his Twitter posted the video of him getting jammed by Sneed, and his tweet was, "Jam my eye to Cancun." Like, he's just, I've never seen a receiver give someone props the way.
Well, but they're also,
he just like, hey, jam me all the way to Cancun.
I don't know. I mean, the cheetah used to belong in that spot. He's given props. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.
You hear Nick Sirianni say he's not thinking about his job. What do you say?
Yeah, of course he's thinking about it, because look, there's going to be a whole lot of things that are going to be reevaluated right now.
Yeah.
It's starting procedurally with what, number one, if you bring Nick Sirianni back, what do you have to do as far as the coaching staff is concerned to make some changes in order for this to get back on the right track? You made changes in the middle of the season when you took Sean Desai out of it, and you put Matt Patricia in there. there's a lot of talk coming out of there about whether or not Sean Desai could have maybe, made some changes as far as some of the assistants that he wanted to bring in there, and he wasn't allowed to bring in there. Then when you look at the football team itself, look, the team is devoid of talent at the second level and at the third level at the safety position. Everybody attacks this team in the same way, every single person. And so now you have to figure out whether or not philosophically you have the right outlook as far as what it takes to play top-level pass defense. And then lastly, when you get back to Sirianni, is he really the guy that you want leading the charge going down the stretch here in terms of like a couple of years from now? Or is Bill Belichick in play? Is that the kind of guy who needs to be in play here? Because personally, I think it's something that you definitely have to consider.
All right, let me check a few things off here. I was going to get to Belichick. Okay. Since we're there, let's go. So, Nick Sirianni, look, he was in the Super Bowl 11 months ago. But this is an organization that has been known to move on when they think it's the time. Is it time?
I mean, I think it's going to be time. I think when you saw Larry in the box last night, the facial expressions, like, that was real, right? Lewis said it when we were in our meeting this morning. Like, it doesn't get more personal for those guys. And here's the issue. Like, everybody talks about the Dallas debacle, all that kind of stuff. This team,
that's the owner, Jeff Lurie, there,
fell off a cliff from 10-1 till the 6 or 7 weeks in a row that you played that poorly. Look, I thought that Tampa had a chance. I didn't think Tampa would boat race them. If Tampa catches the ball, they may score 50 points on this football team. And you cannot give up points. And then from an offensive standpoint, totally bailed away from what they talked about doing all week. We're going to be physical. We're going to do this kind of thing. We give the ball to Swift. None. We don't depend on the offensive line. We let Hurts in the receiving corps try to win it, which obviously isn't going to happen against Tampa. This was just an ugly. The whole situation has fallen apart. And so I think that's the indictment when you talk about this.
Yeah, nobody's off the hook, though. I think we celebrated what Howie Roseman built last year. We have to appreciate that they had nothing, as you mentioned, on the second level and the third level on defense. Missing tackles is inexcusable. But also, they didn't have the talent. They're searching for safeties midseason. They're searching for linebackers midseason. The offense is a little different. The offense had the talent, but they could not consistently have an answer for the blitz. And I watched that game last night, and I watched the game, and I thought, damn, they still don't have an answer for the blitz. I rewatch it. They have answers for the blitz, but they aren't killing people. They're like small ends, with the exception of that big play down the middle of the field to Smith. That was the only time when they made them pay for blitzing, so keep blitzing them. They overload the box. They only have 3 DBs out there because they put extra linemen out there to stop the run, and then their answer is, we have you compromised. We have you out there with only 3 DBs, and their answer for that is short passes, screens and stuff. They just seem to be listless from top to bottom.
It's kind of weird what you just brought up. The fact that, look, this is one of the best offensive lines in football. This is a team that, from an identity standpoint, wants to mash you in the mouth. They want to absolutely beat you up and bully you. Yet they wouldn't do it last night. They got scared over the fact that Todd Bowles made some adjustments, brought some bigger people in. When they thought first and second down base runs were going to be what they thought that's what Philadelphia was going to get, and they were going to try and take it away. And I asked you on the way in here, just because a team says they're going to try and take it away, does that always discourage you from actually just stopping running the football? Of course not. No. Especially when you have a top 2, top 3 offensive line. So they misused the people that they had on offense, and defensively, they misevaluated the people that they had on that side of the football and tried to blame it on a defensive coordinator who didn't have his people in there in the first place, and then said, hey, look, Matt Patricia, you take over, and it looked the same way. So quite honestly, you got a bunch of different things you have to address on different levels here. And really, if you want to talk about people wanting to be held accountable, it starts at the very top and just work your way on down. Just keep on working your way down, because when you have a collapse like this, it's always multi-layered.
Absolutely.
I know people want to go, Sean Desai, it's you. Brian Johnson, it's you. Jalen Hurts, it may be you. You know football doesn't work like that. It's always a colossal kind of group effort.
Especially not when it looks like this over the course of a month.
That's right.
A couple months. That's when it's like that. You go even higher. Sirianni, you're included.
When they
Howie Roseman, get your ass out here too. Everybody got to get something.
When they asked the players, they asked Jalen Hurts, well, how do you fix this? He's like, well, don't you think we would have fixed it if we knew how?
Right.
You know why you can't fix it? Because it's too multi-layered. Because you can't fix all those things. You can't draft people in the middle of the season.
Right.
What are you going to do? You're going to go out and find a coach who all of a sudden, like, magically is going to have every answer. No, you got to do that in offseason. There's a lot of things to work on here.
I hear what you're saying, but let me ask a question on behalf of every football fan who is watching this and listening to this and saying, wait a minute, I was led to believe 11 months ago this was the most talented roster or among them in the NFL that drafted well again, including having Jalen Carter fall right to them. I was led to believe before this season began they might be the most talented roster in the NFL. Now you're telling me they don't have answers because their roster is so bereft of talent. How did that happen?
Look, I believe they have answers on the offensive side of the ball.
Absolutely.
They just don't always go to them. They just don't always call on them. They don't really have the same identity this year as a year ago. So then you start thinking, okay, the loss of Shane Steichen is big.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian Johnson, we had a lot of hopes, but it just seemed like it was a situation that he couldn't really handle. On the defensive side, on the front level, look, on the defensive line, I still think they are better than what they showed in terms of rushing the passer. Second and third level, we talked about that is a problem. That was a problem going into the season.
I think they skipped leg day on the defense side of the ball. That's what it boils down to, is they skipped leg day. They look great up top. Swole, great pecs, nice abs, buys and tries, but they skip leg day.
Yes.
So if you don't, it's important to be strong at one point, but their roster is not well constructed on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's beautiful on offense. They got every tool that they need. The fact that they didn't execute there is a different answer. But on defense, I think the issue is that they were weak in the areas where people want to attack.
We may find out at some point Jalen Hurts was a lot more hurt than he was letting on all year with the knee and everything. But one way or another, they just stopped running the ball. To Lewis's point, they had 14 attempts the rushing last night and 35 passes in a game that was a game much of the night. Why?
Yeah, no identity. I mean, listen, we kept talking about this after when the fall began, and it's what are you going to lean on? What are you going to depend on? Every team has an identity, and when you walk in your locker room and you look at the offensive line they had, that's where you start, and you say, okay, however we have to put this game plan together, we're going to start by being physical up front, which, again, alleviates the defensive issues because you're trying to keep them off the field as much. It's complementary football, right? You find an identity for the entire team by grabbing a hold of what you do best. The problem was, whether it was Johnson, Sirianni, whoever's making that final call, you can't tell me you walk into game plans like last night and say, we're going to be physical all week, we're going to dominate up front, we're going to do these things, and then you just bail on the 10 runs to Swift, right? 10 runs, okay? And again, whatever Tampa shows up in, bro, they're going to show up, right? Like that's what you do in the NFL. Everybody shows up, but you have to go exert your, and the problem is they run from what they do well because they think that all of a sudden they can cure it with big plays. That's just not the way it worked in Philly.
Every team that's going to be there in the end, Green, every team's going to be in the end, in the AFC, in the NFC. The last quarter of the season, the offensive line will lead the way.
That's right.
They've led the way. Every single team, because they can play it however you want.
That's right.
They go, look, bad weather, we're outside, it's cold, we can play it this way.
That's right.
If it's nice weather, we're inside, it's a dome, and we can spread it out a little bit and start moving around, we can do that. Meaning we have answers for whatever you want to present to us.
That's right.
And it always starts up front.
Yes.
It always does.
And let me say this. The last 2 weeks in particular, because Fox made this point, the Eagles face two coordinators that you know are going to blitz you from when you get off the bus to when you get on the plane to go home. Bro, they are bringing freaking heat and didn't have an answer on either. That's neglect.
That's Wink Martindale last week, and now Todd Bowles this week.
Yes.
Very quickly, two more things I want on this game, and we'll have all morning to do it very quickly. Do you believe that they are going to make a coaching change? I'm not asking you if they should. Right. We saw the body language, everything else, how bad it's gotten. Do you think that they're going to make a change in Philly?
I don't think that they make a coaching change in Philly. I was one who said that I don't think they should.
Right.
Then I watched that last night, and it's just, man, I don't know if the coach is the problem, but something needs to happen given how this season ended.
And we'll work our way to the Belichick of it all. We would be remiss, and I alluded to it briefly. Adam Schefter is reporting that Jason Kelce, one of the greats in the history of his position, and you saw him emotional on the sideline last night, told his teammates after the game that it was his last game and that he is retiring. Jeff, you were a center. You're one of the great centers of all time, too. He is in the handful of the best. Just a quick thought from you on
Green trying to choke me up on this show. Hey, man, Hall of Famer. He is a Hall of Fame center, man. It has been a pleasure to watch this guy play football, man. He is as intense as it gets on the field. The levity he brings off the field has been priceless. I love his game. I love it. Congrats on an incredible career, my friend. I'll be there cheering you on when you walk in the Hall of Fame. It's as good as it gets, man.
This is one of the late great Howard Mudds.
Yes, sir.
Like
my man.
Crown jewels right here.
Yes, sir.
This is a Howard Mudd draft. He
Yep.
was there when Jason was drafted out of Cincinnati. I was there.
Yep.
This is Howard's guy.
Yep.
He found him. He believed in him. He brought him along. That's
I
his
met
guy.
with him after his first season in Indy, man. He came to the house, and the dude is an absolute stud.
Yeah, we should all celebrate Kelsey, but I also would like to point out that this is the most football-y man ever. I don't think Jeff cried at the birth of his children. this man over here welling up over a center retirement.
That's a dude, man. That's a dude.
Yeah.
That's that fraternity. That's cool.
And one of the sexiest men alive, according
That's
to
right.
People magazine. So congratulations.
Can we talk about that?
No, let's not.
When you start talking about the Cowboys are built on the postseason, when I was in elementary school, that's the last time the Cowboys were good in the playoffs. So to tell me all they care about is postseason is silly. I can remember a few years ago, they were 8-8 for a long time. And so this whole idea that they this perennial star team, because they're in Dallas, they make a lot of money. Everybody thinks they're this great. They have not been that team. This was an embarrassing loss. And Mike McCarthy, the indictment for me is you went in knowing that was going to be your defensive game plan with Dan Quinn, and you didn't change it. So there is an issue. However, when you talk about winning 12 games a year for 3 years, you better tell me who we're hiring before you fire. Because I ain't just going to go, okay, let's go hire some. Let's make sure who we're hiring before we go fire people.
You know what, man? See, this is bigger than just Mike McCarthy.
Right.
Okay? So, what they all have to ask the question of is this, and every decision has to be tailored towards this. Do we want to be regular season champions?
That's right.
Or do we want to be postseason warriors?
Yeah.
Which one do you want to be? And that is just not about we'll fire Mike McCarthy and all of a sudden then we'll be these postseason champions. Let's go all the way back. Okay, in the offseason, like right now, what we're about to get ready for the draft. When you start having those draft meetings and you start thinking, okay, let me think like 10, 11, 12 months from now when it's December and January. And guess what? The same thing happens every year. The offensive line starts to come into play, your defensive line, your size, your physicality. We better start acquiring some people who then we can start playing different ways when we need to when it gets to the postseason. Not the regular season when you're boat racing people and everybody's happy and you're jumping in, in the Salvation Army pot and doing all those different kind of cute things. But when it really matters. And see, this isn't just a Mike McCarthy thing. Okay, so construct the defense better. Get bigger on the inside. Get bigger at linebacker.
Get some linebackers.
As Mike McCarthy, when you're talking to a guy like Dan Quinn, you better be able to go into his office and go, this game plan is not going to work. Because guess what they're going to do? They're going to have big people, you have little people, and they're going to run it up our you-know-what. So start over and bring me something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not Mike's problem.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. I know we're having fun here and we're being funny about it, but in all seriousness, like that's the kind of thing he has to do. Because as you're watching that unfold, and you're watching Aaron Jones do that over and over again, there's certain guys out there on the field for you defensively, they're trying. They're too small.
Oh, no.
So this is a bigger topic than just Mike McCarthy.
Amen. And I remember somebody last Tuesday being on this show telling my man Fox exactly how Green Bay would have to beat it. Only one way. Line up under center, go get physical, and you think you wake up with the answer being run the ball more. That's exactly what you said. And your response. And if you're Dan Quinn, and you show up to go stop, the only way they can beat you with 6 DBs or more on the field, 48 of 54, you have made an enormous error. And who was right?
And you know what? If you don't trust to put whoever you've got active that day at linebacker and D-line in the game, then go to Will McClay, who runs personnel, go to Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones at this time of year right now and go, get me some bigger people.
That's right. Big bodies.
You know what I mean? This isn't just, well, if you fire Mike and you trade Dak, everything's great. I mean, can we just stop with that stuff all the time?
I appreciate two real football men being very frustrated with a weekend of this soft football that you've been seeing. So my expectation was that they would not come into this game with no plan to stop the run, because the times that they lost were because they were getting the ball run at them. And I had the expectation that they would say, you're going to have to attack us down the field. And they started out, I thought the first series, they started out aggressively attacking the run with tackles in the backfield. Then Jordan Love, they had that illegal contact. They got a first down. Then they couldn't figure out how to stop the run anymore for the rest of the game.
And you know what's
small.
interesting? As former DBs, the secondary didn't play worth a blip. They were giving it up too now. Okay, they were just getting flat out beat.
Yes.
That's all. You know, it don't matter what you call it. They were getting
like
beat.
cement shoes.
Okay.
We're texting during the game. I was like, dude, people been drinking pregame because they are confused. They have no idea. It was an embarrassment. That part is for sure.
They were in cement shoes. I love the way you pronounce that word. So
cement.
But we all know that the conversation is what the conversation is. And we all understand, Shefty said that Mike McCarthy was going to be judged, at least in part, by the way the season ended, by their last game. And their last game, candidly, could not have been worse. So if you're looking for someone who's going to do what Louis Riddick just said, walk into the defensive coach's office and say, this plan isn't good enough, he may say it a little bit more quietly. But Bill Belichick would do that. Does Bill to Dallas make sense? Yes or no?
No. Not to me. Like, I think it makes sense for us to think that adding Bill Belichick improves the defense. He's gonna come into the game with a plan. But I think that you and I talked about this on your radio show. There are some things that Bill Belichick, I think, could deal with. There's some things that I don't think that he wants to deal with. Having that voice behind him, over his shoulder, that has more authority than him, being Jerry Jones, I think seems like if you have other options and you're Bill Belichick, why in the world would you subject yourself to having to fend with all that noise?
But you know what, though? If it's true, and it makes sense, right? Bill wants to go somewhere where he has a veteran quarterback who understands how to play the game at a high level, who maybe needs his kind of tutelage the postseason to go, hey, look, this is what we're going to do.
That's right.
This is how I'm going to help you and protect you. And at the same time go, in this defense over here, Bill wants it strong down the middle, build inside out, defend the middle of the field first, all those things I've said on these shows for years. That's what happened yesterday. That ain't happening with a Bill Belichick coach defense. Look, if he can deal with the rest of the stuff, he's perfect for Dallas. He's perfect.
100% agree. 100% agree. Look, Parcells did it. You can have the personality of Bill Belichick and go down there, and let me tell you something. He wants to win. He would win now, and he would have
no doubt.
And he would win now.
What Dan Quinn did as far as his game plan the other day, that also falls on the head coach. I understand we're going to make this about Dak Prescott because it's always quarterback centric when we're talking about the Cowboys, and that's Mike's area of expertise. But he's also the CEO, and quite honestly, what the defense did was, look, that right there is unacceptable. It's unacceptable, and that falls at his feet. So I would not blame them if they move on.
Let me, you know what? I'm going to change up what I'm sorry, Eric was producing the show today. I'm going to lean into something you just said. Because you just said at the end of the day, Mike McCarthy is the CEO. And I guess I would ask you, is that actually true in Dallas? And is it possible that because Jerry obviously likes him so much, Dan Quinn has been empowered in ways that Mike McCarthy can't tell him what to do?
Well,
you just made all these points.
You're right. Okay, you're right. And you know what? Okay, so all right. So there's two different discussions that we're having here. Then. Okay, look, in a perfect world, then Mike McCarthy is responsible for that. And Mike, like I said, when we made the jokes, when he came in there, he needed to put on there, no, this doesn't work. No, that's no to your game plan. But you know what? We don't know what's happening in that building, right? We don't know if Jerry Jones walks down to Dan Quinn's office or Dan Quinn goes to Jerry's office and runs the game plan by him. And Jerry goes, hey, that sounds great, man. Let's just, let's send the dogs after him, get the pass rushers after him, put those small linebackers in them. We can run. Who knows? Who knows if Mike gets undercut in those kind of situations and really doesn't have any authority? In which case, look, you're doomed anyway then. If you're just cutting your head coach off at the knees and he doesn't have any authority anyway to overrule the defensive coordinator because you're paying him a boatload of money and you're letting him have all these privileges, then you're just doomed anyway. So in that case, you know what? Keep him then. Keep him. If you just want to have someone who you can control, keep him.
Yeah, obviously, Mike McCarthy, we grade the coaches and we grade these teams based on the expectations. And the expectations for the Cowboys this season was sky high. Yeah. And then they met them for much of the season. And then they got here and they way underachieved. So yes, this is a situation that's similar to the way we were talking about the Eagles. Everything should be on the table when you have an embarrassment like that. The first time that a 7 seed even won, you hadn't lost in 16 home games and you go and just get embarrassed? Yes, everybody's job should be, or everyone should be considered for some sort of change or adjustment. Whether the one person who you can't change, we already know who that is. And he's been there for a while and they haven't had success in a long time. They need to figure out someone who can work with him because he's certainly not going anywhere, and that's Jerry Jones.
Really, you know what you're embarking on here? You know what we are kind of like talking about the dam breaking as far as an analogy, as far as discussions are concerned?
Yeah.
This stuff doesn't just all happen in a nice linear vacuum where it's like owner, GM, head coach, GM, you know, head coach reports to the GM reports to the owner, and it's nice and easy. There's so many people who get their hands in the pot here and start manipulating stuff. And when it starts getting that messy, you know this. Right. You know that a lot of times these coaches are having to juggle so many different things, so many different agendas, so many different Eagles that are totally unknown to people who are in the stadium watching the game going, why did they make that call? Right. Why did they come up with that game plan? You have no idea how they arrived at that.
I think when that's the thing, the coach's responsibility is to figure out how to manage up and to manage down. True. To figure out. So I think it's hard. The worst case scenario was what we saw in Carolina. When we heard everything coming out of Carolina where people are going around the coach to the owner of the team. No, and it just feels like a disjointed, sloppy spaghetti of like decision making. You're not going to have success no matter how high your draft pick is. Right. And I think that's a hard thing to do when you own a team or when you're a general manager. When the owner shows up, it's a hard thing to do to not try to curry favor. And that's where the head coach, that's why the head coach has so much responsibility. And that's why I get frustrated when people say, like, you got to get an offensive guru, offensive genius. No. You need someone who knows how to build and run an organization. You can't be locked in. That's a great on game plan week to week. When you have to worry about
manage down. You have to be able to do both.
Yeah, no, and there's no doubt. I would say this from Dan Quinn's situation. I would be shocked. No, just knowing Dan Quinn, having some type of, I would be shocked if there was no checks and balances. He's been a head coach, so he understands. True. He understands how that flows. However, I don't know, but I'm just from me. I would hope that would not be the case. But let me just say this: there is enough blame to go around for Mike McCarthy not checking this, but also with what Jerry and Steven have brought to the organization. And we talked about this in the last hour. The expectations that your defense is going to be something that they're not built to be is a lie that you held on to. And so Mike McCarthy, whether you love the guy or hate the guy, they've won 12 games. This was the first major failure that you've seen from Mike McCarthy. This was it. They should not have beat San Francisco the last 2 years. I don't care what anybody, they're not as good as they were, right? They should have lost, right? Maybe they had blunders, but they should not have beat those teams. They should have beaten Green Bay. They should have understand the game plan to beat them. So that's an indictment on Mike McCarthy. However, your quarterback played the best he's ever played. CeeDee Lamb played the best he's ever played. Ferguson is ascending, right? Jerry and Steven could have went and got a running back that becomes a real piece and part before the trade deadline. They did not do that. Look, I beat the freaking drum. O-line. Go get it. The O-line didn't play.
We talked about Derrick Henry.
Yeah, but like, you look at this thing and you go place the blame all at the feet of one person. Just
it isn't
careful.
That.
It is not that.
And you know what?
And it's a one-game failure, y'all. Like I love that everybody, but I'm just telling you.
That's what football is, Jeff. Football is a one game makes or breaks everything you do.
Right. But you start over. This is the thing. When you start firing, who are we hiring? That's what everybody in Indy used to tell me. Fire them, don't play them. Who are you going to play? There are 53 guys. Who are you going to coach? You only got 4, right? Like say, so how do you, the whole idea of firing only makes sense when you know who you're hiring.
The one thing we should all remember going forward when it comes to the NFL, there is the regular season and the postseason. And when we're talking about teams during the regular season in 2024, we better always be forward thinking and going, when it gets November, December, January, let's look at these rosters.
Right.
Let's look if they can, when it gets cold in Buffalo and it's -4, -5, and teams line up in 12 personnel and just start running the rock, who has the backs that can do it,
Right.
who has the offensive line that can do it, who has the defensive line that can't withstand it,
Right.
regardless of what they did during the regular
Yeah.
season. Because some things change, but some things remain the same, especially when it comes to money time.
If you're Bill Belichick and you know him well, you know what he likes and what he wants. And let's just live in a world where the Cowboys and Eagles jobs both come open. The coaching jobs both come open. We do not know if either of them will. And he has his choice of them. Which one would be the better fit? Which one should he take?
I think because of the court, I would, if I were him, honestly, I would probably go with Dallas to begin with, because I would want to work with Dak. I know that right now I'm going to deal with really one person. In the end, I know that one person matters. I know that one person matters, and that's Jerry Jones. Can I work with this dude? Are you going to, now obviously you need Will McClay, you need Stephen Jones, you need the personnel department to help you out. Because if I'm Bill right now, I don't want to go through all, like it's almost like what Andy did when he went to Kansas City. He let Brett Veach really handle, it was John Dorsey before that, but he let Brett Veach handle the personnel. I'm going to take that off my plate, and I'm going to really dive into fixing this team. If he can do that, I think I love the situation in Dallas. In Philly, there's just some other minefields. If I'm him, I don't want to be dealing with.
Yeah, I would choose Philly if I can get rid of those minefields. So, like, maybe Bill Belichick has the cachet and the credibility to come into anywhere and take care of all of the nonsense that we know that most coaches have to manage. But if he does it, it seems easier to do that in Philadelphia, I think, because one of the issues, the issues in Philadelphia can change. One of the issues in Dallas is the owner. It's not going to change. And I think it's an issue. They've had success, so calling it an issue seems unfair, but it is an additional thing that you have to manage, where you're going to have to manage the way that he owns that team, and that's not going to change, and it seems like an extra hurdle to get over that does not exist in any other team.
Let me ask it a little differently, and I ask it to you because you make your home there, but try and remove this from it. He has already interviewed for the Falcons job. And when you consider everything, when you consider the roster that they have, the quarterback piece, which obviously at this point they do not have, the division in which they play and others, is that actually the best place for him to go if those were the three options? Cowboys, Eagles, Falcons.
Dang, man, you put me in it now. I would want to say the fact, but the best place would be Dallas. I really do. I want him to go to Atlanta. And I want him to go because he would change that organization, and they have incredible amount of talent. But what I would tell you is Dak Prescott versus what is he going to get at quarterback in Atlanta would be the massive question mark for me. He's going to walk in with Dak Prescott and with a team that is constructed. He's got a great wide receiver. He's got a great tight end. He knows he understands their offensive line. Here's the other part. Let me just say this about Jerry and about Bill. Both men have been humble in the last few years. So make no mistake, Jerry just put Jimmy Johnson in the ring because he understands I blew it however many years ago. Both men have been humbled. You see what happened with Bill in New England, and from the general manager side of it, he has not accomplished what he wanted to accomplish that way recently. So now you're bringing these two guys together who all they care about is winning now. They're both up in age. They both want to get it done. And again, I think not only would he be good for now, he would be good at developing whoever's going to come after him after this 3-year stint I think Bill's got left.
Yeah, I think, Bill would want it to be very much so a direct communication line.
100%.
Look, I'm not dealing with a bunch of offshoots here and there where people are kind of like snipping at me here. Like first of all, I'm too old for that crap, and I ain't putting up with it. I'm Bill flipping Belichick.
Right.
I'm not dealing with it. So if you can't clean up your line of communication, your chain of command, to where it's nice and simple.
And Bill Belichick has the credibility to pull that off. And I think as we started to address this a little bit in the last segment, I think this is the most important thing that we've talked about on this show in a while. And I think that it's important to know that you can't take shortcuts. And as a coach, you have to talk to your staff. You can't take shortcuts. We have success. We all achieve. We all get contracts. We all eventually become what it is we want to be. And that's the same thing for the players. If we start to fail and you think, I'm going to take a shortcut by going to snitch on the head coach to the owner or to the general manager, we will not succeed. Bill Belichick has the cachet and credibility to walk in and do that on day one in the same way that you mentioned Pat Riley. But this is an important step to take for all these teams.
The Falcons may actually be the best of all of his options. You get rid of all of this nonsense. They're dying, desperate for him to win. Arthur Blank, I think, would let him do whatever he wants to do down there. They have a ton of good players. Trade for Justin Fields or some other quarterback.
If he gets the quarterback he wants, then that's
then you're rolling.
So.
Sal Paolantonio, kind enough to join us. He is going to the Tampa airport to fly back. The ESPN national correspondent covering the NFL and a Philly legend. Sal Powell joining us on the program. Sal, thanks for joining us. What did you see in the last 2 months that led us to what happened last night?
Well, they don't have any answers for the quarterback. That's the bottom line, Dan. I mean, we can talk about the defense, but you invested $250 million in Jalen Hurts, and game after game after game, for the last 4 games actually, defensive coordinators have been blitzing Jalen Hurts at a rate of 45, 50, 55. Last night, 59% Todd Bowles went after Jalen Hurts, and they don't have an answer for him. And this is the number one problem with the football team. If you cannot convert on 3rd down on the road in a wild card game, they were 0 for forever last night on 3rd down because Todd Bowles blitzed on every single 3rd down. That, to me, is the number one problem. And, you know, Troy Aikman said it on the broadcast last night. They don't take advantage of the middle of the field. Now, they didn't have A.J. Brown last night, but even when they had A.J. Brown in the lineup, it was a problem. So I think that is the number one issue. And when you don't have confidence in your ability to convert in the face of blitzing in the NFL, this is a blitzing league now. It's all about getting the quarterback and getting him out of the game. We had 68 different starting quarterbacks because quarterbacks get hurt. Even in Detroit, we saw Stafford get hurt. We saw Jared Goff get hit. This is what the league is about right now, and they don't have answers. They're not providing the answers, and that's the job of the head coach. It's his offense and his hand-picked offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson.
Is it fixable?
It is fixable, without a doubt. It is fixable. They were okay with it prior to the extraordinary level of blitzes. So they have to get somebody in there who understands. Listen, the guy who invented getting the ball out quickly and being so good at it that he won multiple championships was Tom Brady. They understood that it's a blitzing league, so the ball's got to be hot, get it out of your hands quickly, provide answers, option routes at the line of scrimmage for the quarterback. If you're going to go empty all of the time, if you're not going to be under center all of the time, if you're not getting you back to the quarterback, the defense, you're in the shotgun, you have to provide answers. And that's what Josh McDaniels did for years for Tom Brady.
How safe is Nick Sirianni's job?
I don't think he's very safe. Lane Johnson, the leader of the team in many, many ways, all-pro right tackle, he's going to the Hall of Fame. His quote was 4 words, Dan. No one is safe. This kind of epic and final collapse, no one is safe. And it's important to identify what the collapse was about.
Yeah.
And even Nick Sirianni alluded to it in his post-game presser. We got into a rut, and we couldn't stop the slide. Okay. So I'm not getting paid to stop the slide. You're not getting paid to stop the slide. Lane Johnson's not getting paid to do that. The head coach, that is his number one job description. If the team's going in one direction, I got to make sure I get it to go in the other direction. That's why they're paying me $5 million a year. And he couldn't do that. So I would say I agree with Lane Johnson. No one is safe. But you have to fix the offense and do it around Jalen Hurts. That's the number one thing. And you got to re-energize the locker room. I was literally one of the last reporters. I waited for every player to come out of that locker room. Dan, there was frustration, but I think looking at the players like Hassan Reddick, like Brandon Graham, and I think Graham will be back next year, still playing at a high level, Fletcher Cox, they believe they have the talent in that locker room to turn it around. Both Reddick and Graham said to me, and they said, we got to get after the quarterback, straight to the quarterback. No more fooling around. And I think that's an indication of the kind of philosophy that they want on defense, because they see the rest of the league doing it. You don't want Hassan Reddick dropping into coverage. You want him going after the quarterback. That's what he gets paid to do.
You know, they had a stretch where, you know, they beat Dallas, and they beat Miami, and they beat the Chiefs, and then they had the 49ers loss. I don't think they ever recovered from that loss. What was that, 42-19 or something?
Something.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was a bad something. No, it was a bad. But, you know, you have to go back to what Sean McDermott did. Listen, if Josh Allen and Gabe Davis hook up in the end zone in overtime, you remember the pass?
Yeah.
Gabe Davis went to the pylon, and Josh Allen threw it to the post, which he was supposed to do. That was Gabe Davis miscommunication. Everybody knows you teach the wide receiver down in the red zone. When you have a zero blitz situation, you teach the wide receiver to go to the empty part of the field in the middle of the field. He didn't go there. The ball was not, they didn't connect on the pass. If they connect on that pass, then, you know, the Eagles may not even make it to the playoffs. So they had problems even before that game when they beat Buffalo.
When the Eagles take the field next year, who's the head coach?
Yes. Yeah, that's a good question. So here's the thing. Let's look at the dynamics of it. You know, I'm not in the speculation business. I'm in the reporting business. So here's what I can tell you. If you're going to change the offensive coordinator, which I believe they're going to do, if you're going to change the defensive coordinator, which I believe they're going to do, okay, you're going to make those two changes, or you're going to have a head coach who's in the fourth year of a 5-year deal be the steward, the navigator of this rebuild. That's the question. Are you going to go forward with Nick Sirianni, or are you going to have somebody else come in completely? And there are guys out there. I mean, Belichick's still very much available. Mike Vrabel, very much available. You could do that, and you could definitely change the direction psychologically. And here's the other thing, Dan, and I can't overstate this. In Philly, the fans matter. There's so much attention on what the fans say because the team pays attention to it. They are always focus grouping. They are always polling their season ticket holders. The fans, you have two very big sports talk radio stations. You have guys who are on those sports talk radio stations like Joe DeCamara, Anthony Gargano, others, you know, where the coach no longer has to support. Marcus Hayes, the great columnist of the Philly Daily News. You don't have when you don't have that kind of support in the zeitgeist, if you will, it's hard to really maintain the head coach that you have. And I think that that's the thing. And the other thing, too, is you got to realize, yes, Jeffrey Lurie was patient with Andy Reid, 14 years. But he quickly jettisoned Chip Kelly when things went sour. He got rid of Doug Peterson 2 years after winning the Super Bowl when things were not going right. So he's not in a patient mood these days when it comes to head coaches.
I'll leave you with this. Who had a more disappointing season, the Eagles or the Cowboys?
You know, I would say the Eagles did because they started 10-1 and they couldn't right the ship. I mean, it just kept going under. And that's, you know, I was in that locker room. It was rough. It was definitely rough. Now, I may be giving you that answer because I'm closer to the situation. If you call up Ed Werder and ask him the same question, he might say the Dallas Cowboys because, you know, but in both cases, here you have owners who have to make a decision about a head coach. And you have the greatest coach of all time as a free agent, and you only get one shot. You're only going to get one shot at Belichick, right? Belichick, here's the thing about Belichick. In my view, from what I'm hearing from people, Dan, and this is important, Belichick wants to do this in a dignified, quick way. Beat the record of Don Shula in a way quickly, in a place where it's dignified. So I don't know if he can get a better spot than either Dallas or Philadelphia. You have the quarterback in place. You have veteran players who knew how to win. It's a quick turnaround in both those spots where he can set the record of Don Shula's all-time win record, and he can do it quickly. And I think those are two spots where he could definitely go and accomplish the goals that he wants to accomplish.
Always great to talk to you. Thank you for the information. Safe travels back home.
DP, you're the best.
Sal Paolantonio, ESPN national correspondent. Hall of Famer Steve Young joining us, the former ESPN NFL analyst and former Super Bowl MVP. I thought of you the other day. Well, I think of you a lot of days, but I thought of you watching Puka Nacua. And the reason I thought of you is because you played with Jerry Rice, and Jerry Rice had football speed. It didn't translate to a 40-yard dash, but Jerry didn't get caught. Puka Nacua doesn't have, 4.5 speed or whatever, but he has football speed. Can you tell me, what is the difference between a guy who just runs 40 in a 4.4 or a guy who runs 4.6, but still he doesn't get caught?
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys that put a helmet on and it messes up their athleticism. Like they put shoulder pads, the helmet, they can put cleats on, they run around, and it's like they're not the athlete that they showed up, in shorts. And most of the time, the uniform creates a little bit of havoc and slows you down a little bit. And some guys speed up, or at least handle the weight and the restrictions, and they actually get fat. Jerry was that way, and I think Puka, you've hit it, something that I think is really cool, because Puka is somebody that you do not want to cover, because he's strong. His hand, he's gonna make you miss, and he's gonna run by you, and you wonder why, how, and it's called football speed. And people always talk about, well, what is that? And I always talk about the Force, the Star Wars Force, like something you can't really explain, but it's a talent that when you put the uniform on, you actually get faster, and Jerry was that way.
Yeah, I agree, and I just feel that way with Puka Nacua. All right, let me start with the games last night. What do you see when you see Josh Allen now as opposed to, let's say, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Well, I see a guy that I wish had a little bit more help. I see a guy that has to play Superman every week, and it's amazing that he's able to put the cape on over and over and over again. It's the nature of the game today, though. We've talked about it. You and I have talked about it many times. The game's changed because the rule changes and defenses can't launch anymore. There's more space. The game's more wide open, and so the game is now for a guy like Josh Allen. He is the prototype. Somebody who has a big arm, can run around, can run for a 52-yard touchdown, and change the game in the biggest games of the year. So I wish that he could be somebody that had a little bit more help, so he could just play quarterback and then put the cape on more, periodically. But he's the kind of guy that's going to win Super Bowls. Super Bowls are going to be won by guys like that.
But I think he does have help, Steve. I think he has two good tight ends.
I agree. Dan, I'm with you. It's not like he's helpless. I just wish there's a little more running game, a little more ability to just come out of the huddle, run the play, get the yards, and maybe that's about Josh a little bit. Maybe it's about him just saying, look, I'm gonna be more regular, more of a manager. Just get the ball out of my hands, make the gains. Let the offense run and be efficient, and that'll make him even more explosive. So I hear you, and I probably shouldn't have said it as dramatically, but I think maybe it's tactics, and I would love him to be able to run the football a little bit more.
Who had a more disappointing season, the Cowboys or the Eagles?
It's painful to think of both. To watch the 10-1 Eagles just go completely disappear, and it was weird. Even last night, I watched that. Before the game, I'm like, the Eagles will they'll respond. And I've said this week after week, and it's like they're going to respond. They have to respond. And they come up last night and just there's nothing to respond with, and you want to, what's wrong? And so that's unnerving if I were an Eagles fan. But the thing that, but they're not the winner. The Cowboys are the winner, or the loser, I guess, is that they continue to underperform in the key moments to their talent, and they've done it for 20 years. And you know, it never ends. They never live up to or extend or expand on the talent they have. They always have a talented team, but they never live to it. And last week had to be the most painful thing that Jerry Jones has seen in 20 years.
Okay, but this is systemic. And the one constant has been Jerry Jones.
Dan, come on. I mean, there's a couple of fundamentals. You talk systemic. It's fundamental rootedness of what's wrong with the Cowboys, and that is that Jerry Jones runs the team, but he's not the coach. And I always said if he's going to run the team, you got to be the coach. But he doesn't hire somebody who is empowered by Jerry to be independent, so that when you walk in the locker room and you want to talk to the players, you want to yell at the players. And you yell at the players, and the players go, well, I don't really care what you say because I only listen to Jerry. And that's the problem, is that the head coach for 20 years has not been empowered. And he's got to hire somebody who is clearly empowered. They talk about Bill Belichick right now. It's fun to talk about. I don't know if there's any chance of it. But a guy like that would be somebody who now has the power in the locker room and can get the players to play and live up to the expectations and to their talent. Now, the other piece of it, though, is because it's America's team, everyone talks about it, that somehow you're a Cowboy, you're already famous. And because of that, they haven't earned it. I think what they should do is, like, you don't get the star. There's 2 stars on your helmet. You get 1 star when you win 10 games, and you get another star when you win a playoff game. And that's how you earn the chance to be a Cowboy. Because otherwise, you put the helmet on, and everyone thinks they're famous, and they get punched in the mouth. And like, wait, we're great. What are you talking about? We're the Cowboys. And you see that over and over and over again. So those are the 2 rooted pieces that need to change, or else the Cowboys continue. And people can argue with me, oh, Steve, that's not true. Well, 20 years of it, 30 years of it, you have to start saying there's something systemic about it. And you've got to empower a coach, and you've got to take the stars off the helmet until they get earned.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, because there's a sense of entitlement. And you're right. You're
100%.
Yeah, you're a Cowboy. So you're actually saying you start the season with no stars on your helmet, either side?
100%. Because it says... It's just where that's the situation. It's not, I'm not blame. There's no blame. It's just the truth. And so that they have to go earn that ability to be a Cowboy, because otherwise it gets given too easily without having their, they think that they just show up and everyone goes, oh, they're the Cowboys. Like, the problem is that the rest of the league doesn't care anymore. It doesn't seem to matter.
I want you to place Bill Belichick. Where would you put him?
Oh, it's a tough one, because he's just and you wonder if he needs the support of all, can he bring a bunch of people with him, and then how long is he going to be there? Because you want it. Today's game's different. You look at the most innovative minds of the game today, and you're looking at Miami, you're looking at Kansas City, you're looking at San Francisco, LA, the Vikings, the Packers. Like, the innovative minds are really the guys that are moving around, taking advantage of the space. And so Bill Belichick is an amazing coach, but in today's game, he's going to have to find that offensive coordinator, which he hasn't had for a number of years, who can be that innovative mind. Because that's who's winning. That's how you win championships. Used to be, I'll make a ferocious defense and I'll carry a team to the Super Bowl. You can't do that anymore. It's an offensive game. It's a wide open, innovative game, and it's also run by that guy. There's maybe 8 today, and if Jordan Love is now one of them out of nowhere, or C.J. Stroud is amazing, if those guys kind of are obviously emerging, then you've got 8 to 10 guys in the league that can go win a championship. You got 20 teams that literally are watching, Dan. They have no chance. They're just showing up, playing 17 games, and then waving goodbye. And so there's 8 to 10 teams that have a shot. And if you're going to place Bill Belichick, you have to place him in one of those teams with one of those guys with an offensive coordinator who's innovative. And so it really, to me, that's more important than the actual geography.
Would you replace him in Dallas? Would you put him in there for Mike McCarthy?
Well, look, you and I would both agree that systemically that would be a positive, right? That nobody would wonder if Jerry Jones or Bill Belichick's in control. And I think that's important. Whoever that is needs to be able to walk in the locker room and leave Jerry behind. And I think Jerry should empower that and embrace that.
But does Jerry know that he's part of the problem, Steve? That's part of the problem because you have to read the room.
But Dan, I've been look, he obviously doesn't listen to me because I've been saying it for 20 years. So,
yeah, but you don't tell him this when you see him in person when you're in.
Yeah, no, I have intimated some of this to him when I see him. Like, Jerry,
okay, hold on. I'm Jerry Jones, and I say, hey, Steve, how are
how
you?
you doing?
How you doing?
Look, Jerry, you've got to get a coach that's empowered, that walks in the locker room is not afraid, and he's like, yeah.
That's not intimating, that's telling him.
I've mentioned it, okay? I've mentioned it a number of times.
Hall of Famer Steve Young joining us on the program. How did the Niners not make it to the Super Bowl?
You saw them get beat by the Ravens and a bully defense. The Cleveland Browns did that. And you also saw them get beat by the Bengals with Joe Burrow just throwing it all over the field. And those are the two things, you have, and who's got a defense that's got that bully defense in the NFC today? I know that they're going to probably see the Lions and the Packers. I don't know that either on the road it can do that. Who can throw it around? Can Jordan Love repeat this? Can he be the new Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson? Can he be that guy? Because if he can throw it all over the field. There is some weakness in the secondary that shows up, and they can get beat, and it's been proven that way. I don't think either defense in the NFC can be the bullies that could slow them down. You got to be honest; it's pretty unlikely that the 49ers get beat.
Who do you think's the best quarterback of all time?
I sit in the bar stool and I'm gonna get in a fight over this stupid stuff. Look, Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowls. Joe had 4. I mean, you just, when he had his 7th Super Bowl, you're like, no one's gonna ever. And no one says there's gonna be another person that wins 7 Super Bowls. You never say never, but I say never. No one will ever win 7 Super Bowls. And so to me, we tend to just say that if you win, whoever has the most Super Bowls is the greatest of all time. And that's fine. You can have all kinds of arguments about it and scream and yell, but until somebody wins another 6 or 7 Super Bowls, Tom Brady. I mean, it just has to be that way.
Okay, but do you truly believe that should be the bottom line if you're going to find?
It never is.
But Steve, we don't hold other positional players to that.
Yeah, it's contextual, of course, but that's Dan. Now you're going to be. I'm upset that's the parameters that we're going to make the judgment on. So I want to change the way that's done. Well, good luck. You're going to be run over. Like, okay, let's look at contextually around the players that had more comebacks, fourth quarter comebacks. But then wait, if you have a lot of fourth quarter comebacks, what are you doing behind? Well, who had the most? You'll run out of space. I think in the end, football's a team game, so quarterback's the ultimate player on the team game. And so the ultimate thing to do is to go to the Super Bowl on the team game, and the quarterback who does it the most. I mean, I think that's probably why it wins, Dan, because it's the one that there's a lot of other ways to cut it, but in the end, championships have a way of calming the water.
Will somebody be recognized as a better receiver than Jerry Rice in our lifetime?
No, I think he just relentlessly. You can't match the numbers. People have tried. Even in today's, what's crazy is the game's changed so much. It's so much more wide open. You're seeing the efficiency records and the 118s, 120s. You're seeing yardage, touchdowns. If you look at era adjusted, you think that Jerry Rice would easily be covered by now, right? Come on. I mean, 20, 30 years later, you're still looking up pretty dramatically at Jerry Rice. Then you ask yourself, because even if you're going to be era adjusted and still be dominant, and even un-era adjusted still be dominant, you're going to dominate for a long time.
When you watch the game now with your kids, like, do you ever go, how did I play that game? Like, how did I survive?
I've done that when on Monday nights when we're on the sideline, and some teams are particularly kind of bully looking, and I watch the first quarter a lot from the sidelines, and I'll be with a buddy or something. He's like, "You freaking played this?"
He calls it this.
I played this. It wasn't just patty cake, man. This is a whole. He goes, "You're kidding me!" Like, you got freaking rocked, man. You're not gonna. So yeah, I do. Time goes on, and you think about the game, but the problem with me, Dan, is I see the game today, and I see the players that are thriving in this game today. They're my guys that played like I played. And you see how they treat the quarterback, and you see all the open spaces, and the flats are never open, the middle of the field is unpatrolled, and you're like, please let me play again. Please let me play in this time. And I really mean that. Like, I would love so desperately to play today. It would be so much fun. I mean, I never thought football was necessarily fun. I thought it rewarding and challenging and like engaging, but I never thought of it as like fun. And for whatever reason, today's game to me is like, oh, so much fun. I just want to play.
Who's the former teammate of yours who should be a Hall of Famer?
Well, there's two. There's probably Roger Craig and Brent Jones. And I think you could argue for Harris Barton. Like, we talk about 20 years of, dominance. 18 playoff appearances in a row, or 19 playoff appearances in a row, five Super Bowls and 12 championship games, 13 championship games. I mean, it was Patriot-like. And so, and the guys that led that and did that, you're forgetting a couple or three. Inevitably that happens, but that's how I would line it up.
Do you have anything cool in your office? Is that your actual office where you are?
When I got married, my wife says, "Hey, look, there's only one quarterback in the family. That's me." And I'm like, "Oh, wait, what are you talking about?" You see this ring?
Steve, the other quarterback bought the house.
You see my ring? I got my rings here. I've lived for a few decades. Brett recognizing at home. This is not my office. This is my wife's office. I have a little corner that I'm using, and I'm before the office hours, and so I get to sit here for a while.
What happened to you?
I can tell you one thing: offensive line sucks. I can tell you that. Because that's what I'm playing now, and.
Great to talk to you. Thank you. Thanks for sharing, Steve.
You're the best.
That's Steve Young, Hall of Famer. It's Reggie Bush, just inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame during the National Football Foundation dinner in Las Vegas last month. And Reggie joining us on the program. Before we get to Reggie, let's play the Reggie Bush game, the favorite NFL team he had when he was growing up. Todd, I'll start with you.
I'm going to say...
Reggie Bush, just inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame during the National Football Foundation dinner in Las Vegas last month. And Reggie joining us on the program. Before we get to Reggie, let's play the Reggie Bush game, the favorite NFL team he had when he was growing up. Todd, I'll start with you.
I'm going to say the Raiders.
Okay. Seton.
Man, Raiders is a good guess.
I know, I agree.
I'm going to say the Raiders.
All right, Marvin?
I'm going to say the Chargers.
Okay. All right, local team. All right, Paulie?
It's got to be the Chargers.
I'm going to go Raiders. Let's bring in Reggie Bush to play the Reggie Bush game. Your favorite team growing up was?
It was the Chargers, man. San Diego Chargers.
Okay. Who was your favorite running back growing up?
Barry Sanders. He was a guy that I wanted to emulate my game after. He's a guy that I fell in love with. He is a guy that really, like, I felt like introduced me to the game of football. He was the first person that really just captivated me when I watched him on the screen.
But is that something you can learn, the way Barry ran?
Yeah, it is. I think if, obviously it takes a lot of hard work, dedication. But, the way that Barry moved, to me, it was pure artwork, and it was, there was a lot of, built-in instincts as well into it. And a lot of that plays into your vision. And so, I think there are different drills and things that you can work on with young kids as far as working on their vision, how to use your peripheral vision, how to see things, how to set things up. And then you have to work on the quick feet as well. And so I think there is, that you can get to, the level of what, Barry Sanders was. It's obviously going to take a lot of hard work, dedication, and there's only one true Barry. But yeah, you can definitely get there.
What was it like when you met him?
Oh man, it was full circle moment for me. He's such a humble guy, and I think I remember meeting him. I wasn't even drafted yet. I was actually about to get drafted, and I was in Detroit. You remember when the Super Bowl was in Detroit? And I was out there for the Super Bowl. And that's when I met Barry Sanders for the first time, and I was just overwhelmed. It was a full circle moment. I couldn't believe I was meeting my idol, the guy that I just always wanted to pattern my game after. And he was so humble, And a lot of times people talk about when you meet your heroes, they don't always live up to that. Barry lived up to it.
How big of celebrities were you guys at USC in that moment?
I would say we were very big. When you look at we can talk about just the sidelines alone, right? Every celebrity, would come out to our games. Snoop Dogg was always there. Will Ferrell was there. Shaq was there sometimes. And it was awesome, man. We were on that football field, in that stadium, we felt like gladiators. And, that was the arena that, we loved to compete in. And every game was sold out, 96,000 people.
What's the most surreal moment you had when you played there?
I had a lot of them. It's hard to choose one because there were a lot of games that I look back on that I can't believe it happened. I think one that sticks out is the Notre Dame game. We played in Notre Dame, winning that game in the last second, what is being dubbed as the Bush push. But it was awesome to go through that experience, with my brothers, with my teammates, with the coaches, playing for the fans. And then also at home, I think some of my memorable games were playing against UCLA because that was always our last game of the season. It was always a crosstown rivalry, and we always wanted to make sure that we saved a little bit up just for UCLA so that we always have bragging rights that we owned LA, so many memories, when I think about my time at USC, and I'm just so appreciative that I stopped through there.
Well, I didn't know if the NFL was a letdown after playing at USC.
I'll tell you what, when I got to
but
New Orleans,
fame-wise, you were more famous in college than you were in the NFL.
Well, I'll say this: when I got to New Orleans, there was an explosion, of just the fan base welcoming me with open arms. Because you got to also remember, this is 5 months after Hurricane Katrina, and so me coming to the city of New Orleans was a very big deal because one, the team hadn't been good in years, and if you remember, they were called the Aints. People will refer to them as the Aints, and fans would show up to the games with paper bags over their heads, and the team, I believe they had lost every game the year before. So, me coming to New Orleans was a very big deal. And it was one of my favorite moments. You talk about a surreal moment. That was a surreal moment, me going to New Orleans, because I was supposed to be the #1 draft pick. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
And,
Mario
taking you
Williams.
back down, Mario Williams ended up being the #1 draft pick. I actually found out the same way everybody else found out. I found out on SportsCenter.
Was it because he was signable? Like that was the report at the time.
No. You want to know the truth?
Yeah.
The truth is with Charlie Casserly. and he hasn't talked about it. We've actually had an opportunity to discuss it when I was working for NFL Network, because one of the executives found out the truth, and I hadn't even known the truth yet about why I didn't go to Houston. And apparently it was because they hired a private investigator to investigate me during the Heisman Trophy debacle that was happening at that time. An investigator came back and said that I was a bad guy, had bad character, I was a street kid, and that they shouldn't sign me, they shouldn't draft me. And so this is a story I'm getting from one of the executives at NFL Network. And so, they wanted to do this one-on-one with me and Charlie Casserly and just kind of talk about it. And at first, Casserly said, yeah, and then he ended up backing out because I think he understood it probably, wasn't going to look great for him. So,
So Charlie was the longtime GM of the then Washington Redskins. Then he became the GM of the Texans. So they had the chance to take you number one. We're talking to Reggie Bush. How will you sum up your college career talking to your kids?
Awesome. Amazing. One of my favorite stops. College is the place where I learned so much about myself. I became a man. I had to overcome things. I had to compete. I had to, compete for the role that I ended up, immersing myself in as, starting running back and punt returner and catching the ball out of the backfield and all those different things. And so I had to work to get there. And I was also surrounded by amazing talent. I was also surrounded by great coaching. And, that was one of the things that also helped elevate my game as well, is every time we stepped on that practice field, we felt like it was the competition level was always at its highest. It was just straight competition. You know what I'm saying? And from the time that the whistle was blown, we always started practice with 9 on 7. I hated 9 on 7 because it was like the defense was, you're not throwing the football 9 on 7, practice period. It's just a run. It's just a run period. It's the run. You're literally only running the ball, and the defense knows you can't throw it. And so every linebacker is sprinting full speed downhill as soon as the ball is hiked, and it's like running into a brick wall. But that's what we did to get our practices started during the week, as we prepared for Notre Dame, as we prepared for UCLA. And as much as we hated it, it also made us stronger. And it also helped us to develop the chemistry and the bond that we needed so that we can go and win some of these tough games.
Reggie inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame during the National Football Foundation dinner in Las Vegas last month. I agree with your point about Nick Saban. If you'll paraphrase that for the audience, that the reason why you think, or at least one of the reasons why Nick Saban is stepping down is because...
It's because of NIL. And if anybody's been paying attention, and if they've been listening to Nick Saban's, speeches or interviews that he's been doing at some of these different conferences, and I don't know where he's at when he's, speaking to, some of these people, but there was a point to where he was complaining about other universities paying players. He was complaining about Jimbo Fisher paying players. He complained about Deion Sanders supposedly paying, 5-star players. And it was, I honestly felt like at one point I didn't understand it, because on one side you're looking at, this is supposed to be one of the greatest coaches ever in the history of college football, and here he is complaining after he just won 5-6 national championships. So I didn't understand that mindset of, what are you complaining about? You're at the top. You are the pinnacle. People want to be you. And yet here you are complaining because the playing field is now starting to level itself out. And that's what people have to understand with NIL. That's what's happening. There's a movement that's happening, and the movement is the power is going back into the hands of the players. And that's something that has never existed in college football or collegiate sports, because it's been built off of amateurism, right? And we know that it's not true. It's not truly amateurism, because there's big money. This is big money business when we talk about college football, when we talk about college basketball. It's big money. It's a big business.
Is Deion Sanders, what he's doing at Colorado, sustainable?
What do you mean? Like, what part of is it sustainable? Because right now, winning, 5-6 games a year, I think is sustainable. I think if you're talking about winning a national championship, that's a much tougher subject and question because they just got to start getting better recruits. They got to start getting 5-star players. And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. You can find, here and there sometimes some 3-star guys, maybe a 2-star guy here and there, and turn them into a 4-star, player. But at the end of the day, to be able to win and to stay on the top, you need to be able to get those 5-star recruits. You got to be able to get those 5-star players. And so he has that position. He has the most important question answered, which is the quarterback position right now with his son. After that, he's got to go find some guys, after his son leaves, because I think after this year, his son's probably going to be gone. But he's got to start getting better, better players. And that's, that's where it's tough, because at the end of the day, now you look at the Pac-12 is gone. I apologize. I don't even know where's Colorado going now? What conference are they going to?
They're in the Big 12.
They're going into the Big 12. So
isn't that crazy that we have no idea where, like Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC?
Yeah, I know where they're going.
And you called it the Pac-10 or the Pac-12, and now it's the Pac-2, and this is crazy. Great,
It's crazy.
It's disappointing. It really is that the grown-ups have allowed this to happen.
Well, it's again, this goes back to the structure of college football and how it operates, and the narrative that the NCAA has been able to create with the amateurism word, and being able to really deceive, I think, people into believing that it truly is amateurism, because it's truly not amateurism. Again, like I said, it's big money business, and the players are the workhorses. And for so long, the players did not have power up until most recently, until the NCAA was forced by the Supreme Court with the ruling of 9-0 to allow players to monetize off of the thing that they owned from the time that they were born, which is their name, image, and likeness.
You filed a defamation lawsuit against the NCAA. Was that in August?
Yeah.
Explain to me what you're hoping to get out of that.
Listen, the NCAA made a statement about me. That was a lie. They said I was paid to play. And that was never part of the original investigation, alleging that I was paid to play. And so if it's a lie, then it's a lie. And for so long, the NCAA has been able to get away with the narrative that I was paid to play. But that's why it's ironic that the narrative that I was paid to play was first circulated and started by the very people who released a statement about me officially, stating that I was paid to play. And so that's what the lawsuit is over. That's what a defamation of lawsuit ultimately is about when, someone says something about you that's not true, especially if it's public, especially if it's released, to, numerous media outlets, that pick up on it. And it's also, listed as a reason as why I'm not being reinstated, or a reason as why, I'm not getting my Heisman Trophy back. And that's a lie.
But what if
again, like I said,
what if they said, drop your lawsuit, we'll restore your collegiate records as a settlement?
It's too late. We way past that. We passed the.
But if they restore your records, then you get the Heisman.
They're going to have to do that anyway. That's going to happen anyway. All that's going to happen anyway, because again, I don't know if you heard what I said, a lie is a lie, right? And so if it's a lie, then it's going to be exposed, right? We'll find out in this lawsuit. You know what I'm saying? We'll find out who's really telling the truth. And that's what's the most amazing part about it is we've never been able to do this. For so long, I haven't been able to do this, which is, file this lawsuit against the NCAA until they made that statement, And so that's, again, that's what you guys are seeing now for the first time. You're seeing my story, my case being tried in an official way, in the court of law, which is something that the NCAA has never had to do. They never had to prove their case in the court of law.
Great to talk to you. Congratulations going into the College Football Hall of Fame. Good luck with the lawsuit. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Dan.
That's Reggie Bush joining us on the program. He won the Heisman in 2005.
So now the question is what do they do with the coach, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable. When Bryce Harper and the Phillies were killing it in the playoffs, and Bryce Harper was it again Arcia, the second baseman of the
for the Braves,
the Braves, and he's kind of like
pointing
at him
and
all that business, and I'm like that he looks just like Sirianni, who's MFing fans, and he's just barking and talking with his chest like he is the personification of the Philadelphia id, and now he is the personification of Philadelphia. What happens when Philadelphia coaches can't stop the bleeding and it suddenly turns into a total disaster? It looks like the shining elevator. Forget about stopping the bleeding. Unbelievable that this is now part of the conversation with 2 years left on his contract and just one season removed from an NFC championship and winding up within mere points of hoisting the Lombardi Trophy for Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts had this to say after the game when asked about his coach's future. Because he couldn't stop it. The defense couldn't tackle anybody. And so, of course, the leader of this team, who, thanks to last year, got a huge contract out of it, and this was the first year of his huge contract.
You want Nick back.
I didn't know he was going anywhere.
Well, obviously a lot of questions about whether.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that.
Nah.
Where's your confidence level in him then to fix this team?
I have everybody. I have a ton of confidence in everyone in this building. It's just a matter of us going out there and playing clean football. And that's been something that we have not done.
I honestly, if they sit there in the meetings and say, okay, we need a new offensive coordinator because that wasn't it. They didn't have a plan. Todd Bowles was blitzing the minute. You know what? The blitz call. The minute the announcer in Raymond James Stadium started the third down, like as soon as the word came out of his mouth, the blitz call was in. And they couldn't stop it. And bless him for living in a cocoon or where he's not hearing this conversation about his coach. Certainly in Philadelphia, where they've got sports talk coming out of their you-know-whats. And so Lane Johnson, our guest on Friday, said the words last night when asked about what the future held. He said, quote unquote, no one is safe, said Lane Johnson. Because he knows something's up. We only see the tip of the iceberg. There's an iceberg in Philadelphia. I don't know what the hell happened with A.J. Brown needing to have the teammates over for a gathering, and then he removes himself from Twitter and Instagram and everything. He said apparently it's got nothing to do against the Eagles. Mike Garafolo had that report on Game Day Morning. He just needed a tap out. He told the Eagles PR staff, I'm tapping out. It's got nothing to do with anybody here. Okay. I honestly, I don't know. It is the greatest mystery. The Bermuda Triangle landed on Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The minute after Gabe Davis went one way and Josh Allen threw another way in overtime in Philadelphia, because if they connected on that, Philadelphia would have lost every single game the rest of the year, with the exception of that one that one game where they lucked out on Christmas against the Giants, when Tommy Cutlets handed it off to Tyrod Taylor and he turned into Phil Simms and Hostetler and Eli Manning all rolled into one. I don't know what the hell happened. And Jeff Lurie's got to sit there and go, if we're changing the offensive and defensive coordinators, are you the one to hire them? Because you got 2 years left on a deal, and I'm wealthy enough to eat it and go get Bill Belichick, who's sitting out there. That's the crazy thing, too, is that this is the most decorated group of coaches interviewing for jobs, like Belichick apparently did with the Falcons yesterday. Words I never thought I would see tweeted out by the Atlanta Falcons. We have interviewed Bill Belichick for a head coaching position.
It was so bizarre.
What the hell?
That pops up in your timeline. You're like,
wait a minute.
Is this an ad?
That's
Is
like
this like spoof The Onion? What is happening
That's
right
like the 28-3 of coaching searches.
Oh, my God.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free. You know I love Mike Tomlin, okay? I love him. I understand, though, that Steelers fans are disappointed that he's lost playoff game after playoff game after playoff game of recent years. What's the number now? 7 years without winning a playoff game now? I have the numbers here. They're not pretty. But they made it. You know what I mean? Like, would you rather have loved and lost than not at all? And then the answer's like, you don't want to lose anymore, and enough's enough.
Thing, right?
And, you know.
Yeah, we have this conversation all the time. Like, you would rather.
Dude, it's been.
Love and lose,
I haven't made the Jets haven't made the playoffs in 13 years. It's been 13 years since I settled in like Steeler fans were able yesterday. It was a 7-point game at one point.
But
like, that was a game.
But no, it was not a game. Did you really ever think the Steelers were going to win?
I didn't think that. I thought that they had a shot. Yeah.
Yeah,
dude,
I definitely thought they did.
Of course they did.
Come on.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
You never thought the Steelers
Mike
were going to win that
Hoskins,
game.
our coordinating producer, is a diehard Bills fan. Take Brockman if you thought that the Bills could potentially lose. All right, he didn't. He feels really confident. Okay. I don't know. Oh, there he is. Just a little late.
A little late.
Okay.
No chance.
Dude, I don't know.
It was 21-0. That game was over.
It was. Listen, they didn't quit, and they had a chance. And then Miles Jack, who was on a practice squad, he was retired. He was on the couch. I mean, the number of injuries that they had. There was no T.J. Watt. They're 1-10 in games without T.J. Watt. Okay, I'm excuse making to all the people who think I'm in the tank for the coach and can't tell the truth and all of that. Look,
Vince Lombardi's not winning a game with T.J. Watt on the bench,
dude,
not playing. Like, come on, let's be real.
Honestly, they played it, and then Miles Jack had a back-to-back where the ball found him, man. And unfortunately, it did not work out. And now the Pittsburgh Steelers, their last 4 playoff games, I mean, they've lost 5 playoff games. The differential of minus 68. 4 of their last 5 playoff games, they've lost by 11 or more points.
Ooh.
They just, tough assignment. I get it. But Mike Tomlin, this was the end of his press conference, and we're wondering if this is the end of his remarkable tenure. There's 17 years, right? Is this the walk-off? Hit it.
Anyone? Mike, you have a year left on your contract.
He just walked off as soon as he heard, Mike, you have a year left in your contract. Shot a glance and left. Literally, exit stage left. The door was to his left. And a lot of folks are reading that to say he's gone. I disagree. I just think he's a very prideful man who knows the conversation, knows about that talk, and wasn't ready to countenance a single second about it. I'm out. And you could say that he ran from the accountability. There's a lot of people that for some reason, and I get it, you're not happy that you haven't won a playoff game. The Steelers aren't the roadkill. They're the road through which you must go to win a championship. I get it. But I don't think he's ready to leave. I know a guy who I saw, again, in Indianapolis. That guy loves coaching. He loves ball, and he's not burnt. And I think he loves where he is, personally. But he's got, older kids, and if he wants to start somewhere else, I'm sure Dallas would love to have him if they want to blow out their guy. Could you imagine he goes to the other part of the state?
Right.
What about Atlanta? Would Atlanta take him?
Seattle?
Tennessee? I mean, pretty much anybody would take him. And I know a bunch of Steeler fans have been looking at me and saying, you take him then. Man, I don't know what that brave new world would look like. But I understand. You want Belichick there? I don't.
Pittsburgh? Oh, baby.
I mean, Vrabel.
Vrabel strikes me as
Put him there in the Steel City. I understand,
guy.
folks. I get it. I just don't think he's going anywhere, personally. If he doesn't want to, I don't think he's gone.
You know, part of me kind of hopes he does leave.
Just so everyone
Just
can
so
get
they
what
can
they
get
those
this is what you
naysay.
want.
Yeah.
You know, this is what for years.
Are
you've
you
been
letting a
clamoring for.
naysayer know?
I'm letting.
Are
him
you
know.
doing full length on this?
You know, I'm just saying, man.
I hear you.
I'm letting a Yinzer know is what I'm doing.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.
Also, there.
All right, everyone, I am done. I'm done for tonight. Yep, that was a pretty crazy long delivery. Yep, I did it pretty much in one sitting. Yeah, I'm surprised. Didn't really take any breaks, but I need a break now, so the stream's almost 4 hours. The delivery took about, I don't know, how long did that take? Probably at least 3 hours. Excuse me.
Is it just me, or I feel like with Laura's Sigmund, I'm looking at her hair with the curly hair, the same outfit, even the way she prepares for the show?
Yeah, we'll just say this one took about 3 hours in real time. So yeah, an extra hour than the last delivery from the last stream episode of this game. That one took about 2 hours. This one took about 3 hours. So I'm done. There's some things I want to say. Yeah, it's kind of weird that the GPS got the map wrong, so I just kept going a different way, and then finally the GPS recalculate the right way. For those of you that were watching, you guys know what I'm talking about. It went from like 40-something hours to 16 hours. Like, golly, that is a huge difference. Can you imagine if I drove the whole 46 hours in this game? I would be late. There's no way I'll be there in time. And also, this delivery, this was an urgent delivery, meaning that they wanted the delivery faster, and I got it on time. And surprisingly, I got an excellent rating. I didn't thought I would get an excellent because I damaged the trailer like 4%. Yeah, I damaged my truck quite a bit, but I repaired it, so it should be pretty good now. And yeah, got more money. I'm almost at $700,000, so I guess the road to $1 million again. Maybe we'll hit $1 million for the 8th anniversary of this game on February 2nd. Yeah. Yep. Long delivery, no breaks. And I'm probably going to do another stream like this because I'm not done listening to that playlist. But that's okay. I might do it on Saturday. Don't know if it's going to be afternoon or evening. But, yeah. And then, the Friday after that will be the 8th anniversary of this game on February 2nd. And then, when I finished, I leveled up to level 36. I am now the King of the Road, I believe. That's the name. And I've officially upgraded every skill from all the categories. I think there's like 6 categories with 6 skills each. So there's 36 skills total. I believe I've officially upgraded all the skills, and I didn't get like a little notification saying, congratulations, you've upgraded every skill. Let's see here, my achievements. I have all, these are all my achievements. There's 96 achievements and I got 21. Huh, I can compare these to my Steam friends that play this game. And it tells you when you unlock it. Some of these I've unlocked on stream. Yes. I guess I didn't get an achievement. Maybe there is no achievement for this. I don't know. Are these sorted by the latest? Yeah, I think so. Okay. Yep. 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020. Back when I didn't have my gaming PC, so I couldn't do streams and videos of this game. And 2019. Locked achievements. I don't know why these are locked. I don't know. But obviously I'm not going for perfect. I'm not going to get everything in this game, so I'll do, you know, whatever I can do. But yeah, that's it. So thank you for watching another stream of this game. I might be back in a couple of days again, because I'm not quite done with that football playlist, but I think one more stream I'll be done with that playlist. Yep, the road to the 8th anniversary of this game. I'm actually really hungry now because I haven't ate in like, golly, I haven't eaten in like 8 hours. Yeah, that's how long I've gone without eating. Well, I've ate like little things, but not like a meal. Yeah, I ate some Chinese food at my local mall, and that was at like around 4-ish, a little before 4 p.m., and now it's past midnight. I gotta eat something. Luckily, I know what I'm gonna be eating. Global achievements. Oh, wow, okay. So anyway, you guys can pause and look at these if you want to. I'm just scrolling down and seeing this. Oh man, I can't believe I literally sat on my chair for the entire stream. I didn't get up, didn't go to the bathroom. I didn't. Man, I really felt like a trucker, man. Felt like I went on a long road trip. I've never done that in real life, but one of these days that'll happen. And I'll do my best to do videos of it. Alright guys, that's it. And oh yeah, one last thing. I can, since I'm currently in Seattle, Washington, I can do one of the longest deliveries ever. I can go all the way to near the bottom of Texas. Jeez. Maybe I should do that for the 8th anniversary. Do the longest delivery ever. I don't know. I'll think about it. Till then, have a great night.